Hey, you got to pop that up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying. Like, you know what?
Just use your strength. Use your strength.
Should I do this?
Yeah, you could do that.
Because the last time I did it,
it just kept falling down.
Yeah.
Broke it. Yeah.
Well, it's about
Use your strong.
every show, man. Every show.
So are we on?
We're always on.
All right.
Wait, we got to.
Well, while you guys do that, we'll introduce Amber a little bit, and get to know her, a little bit of your background. I know you have some military service in the Navy.
Yep.
And now you work in
City Hall.
What is your role there?
The human resource director.
Oh, so you can fire people?
Yes.
Well, and you also hire people?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, we don't need to do that. I told somebody in City Hall the other day, we should probably just fire half the people. And they thought that was a terrible idea.
Well, I don't know if you should tell the human resource person that right now.
Indiscriminately.
You can't manipulate
I think we
anything.
could. Yeah.
Did you? You didn't grow up here, did you? Or did you?
I did. I grew up in Goldsboro, though. I went to Goldsboro, went to North Pocono.
Oh, you went to North Pocono? What year did you graduate?
The Trojans.
04?
Yeah.
Did you have a girl up there, a teacher like Jim McHugh? My cousin teaches up there. How about a Denebom?
I don't know.
No Deneboms? Damn it.
Yeah, your family's not that widespread.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the name Denebom, there's like 150 of us in the world. And we come from like German royalty or something, which we just found out a couple of years ago.
Royalty, really? Really?
Look, in the pantheon, pantheon of German history, I don't know if I want to wear that badge.
It's
True. Not
it's
a
like
bad thing.
the Nigerians and the chiefs. Every Nigerian has a chief.
What does that mean?
There's always
Same
a
thing.
chief. Yeah, same thing.
Oh, all right. I don't understand, man. It's different countries. I'm an ignorant person from around here. So you graduated in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened? Did you decide to go to college, or did you decide to join the Navy?
I went to college first. I went to the U for a year. Was super broke, and
well, you're the U. Did you go to the U?
Lackawanna.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The lesser of the colleges.
Sorry to let you all down.
All right.
and then I went to the Navy after that.
After a year.
Yeah.
What were you majoring in?
I was a history major with
Get
a
out.
minor in like Arabic studies.
Really?
Whoa.
Why were you picking those?
Honestly, I really loved the culture.
Of like the Middle East?
Yeah, the food and stuff and everything. And I wanted to learn the language and stuff. Yeah.
Sure, about falafel.
Is Arabic hard?
It's
to learn?
really hard.
I would imagine it's very complex.
Yeah.
Isn't English like the
English
dumb?
is hard too.
English is kind of the dumbest.
I thought it was the dumb one. I thought it was like the dumbed down version.
English is like the hardest. It's the hardest language.
The hardest.
Is that because
so much of it doesn't? So much of it doesn't make sense.
Nuances. It's the
Yeah, it
inflection
has a
of the
whole
English
lot of-
language, all that.
Like live live,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I'm an idiot.
So there's certain languages that are like polytonic, like Greek is polytonic. So like you can
Oh,
call.
We
What a
can't
surprise
get through
he's talking
5
about
minutes
Greek.
without him bringing
I'm
up
just saying,
Greece.
It's been 5 weeks.
Yeah, tell me about the coastal languages of Greece,
So
Alex.
no, real quick. So you could.
There's nothing quick about a Greek story.
Well,
there is
I will
nothing
be
quick
short.
about it.
So in terms of polytonic, so there's malaka and malaka. One means soft, one means jerk off.
You just said Malaka.
I did, but one's soft. one's
Malaki,
jerk off.
Malaka.
No, you said Malaka.
Yeah, malaka.
Right. So what
Malaka,
about
soft.
wine? What does wine mean?
Wine, crasi.
In English, dummy? What does wine mean?
Oh, wine is again. Yeah, you could either drink wine or you could be a winer.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop whining.
And it's pronounced the exact same way.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm
Anyway.
sorry, Amber.
Anyway, back to Arabic.
This is what happens when men gather. So
So a year at the U, then the Navy. Was that always the plan?
No.
Okay.
My mom was in the Army. She did 22 years and retired. She was an officer. So actually for most of my life, I was like, I'm never going into the military.
Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to do some type of public service.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what that was going to look like or kind of exactly how I was going to pursue it. Me and my brother are very close, and he was going to the Air Force after high school. So we decided to do the buddy system and join together. So that's kind of how we ended up doing it.
So you went to the Air Force, but you went to the Navy.
Yes.
Why did you go to the Air Force?
Well, I had these things called
She hates
student
heights.
loans.
Oh.
And at the time, they were being more selective, and they basically wanted me to get my loans together. And I was like, well, I'm broke, and nobody's doing this
Yeah.
if you have just resources just to, pay off everything.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up speaking to a Navy recruiter by mistake. And they were like, we'll take anybody. So come on down.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now, how long were you in the Navy?
8 years.
Wow.
Full 8 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you get from?
Well, we had Andy on the podcast, who was an Army Ranger. So a lot of the times we think that there's misconception about the armed services, what each one does, and what the specialties are.
Yeah.
So and Andy was in the Rangers, so he's very coy about what he says he can and cannot say. So in the Navy, the PO is different. Like the whole boot camp thing is different.
Yeah.
All the responsibilities are different than what normal people conceive as what military service is. Can you walk through what kind of it was like and what you went through?
Sure. I mean, the Navy's different just because you're always moving, you're on a ship most of the time. There's a lot of jobs that have nothing to do with kind of, you'd think typical military service as well. So we have people who are, shopkeepers, or people who work in barbershops, or people who work in places where you kind of work for the ship and you're cleaning and you're just, doing
logistics.
Logistics. Yeah. There's so many different things that you can possibly do that aren't necessarily military seeming, that people would kind of think of and stuff. But basic boot camp is relatively the same. Once you finish your kind of initial 6 to 8 week boot camp, that's when you'll roll into more specialty things. So, and then you'll also go to schools after that too. So right after boot camp, you'll go to your school that will teach you what your job is.
And was there certain disciplines that you wanted to get into, or was it just wherever you guys want to put me, I got to pay the loans?
Yeah, actually, yeah, because I wanted to leave right away. So I literally was like, I don't care. So I went without a job specifically. So I ended up working with the bosun's mates on the ship. So they kind of just do everything from standing watch to driving to a lot of maintenance, painting the sides of the ship when you pull into port. A lot of just repair and stuff.
Is that hanging from the thing?
Yeah.
Paint?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That's so cool.
And you don't realize you're a couple stories up, and you're like,
painting
this
the
is a far
anchors
fall.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
I'm familiar with the word bosun because I watch a lot of Below Deck.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen the TV show.
What's Below Deck?
It's an absolute tragedy, and it's addicting.
Amazing.
What's that on?
It's like the Jersey Shore
Is it
of
on
boats.
Bravo?
It's on Bravo.
Yeah, it's on Bravo.
Wait, Bravo has now exploited shipmen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there's below deck med, below deck sailing.
Yep, it's crazy.
I love it.
Really?
I love it.
Yeah, and basically the bosun is the person who doesn't necessarily drive the boat, but kind of keeps everything else on the boat working.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
knew
kind of
none
like,
of this.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
neither.
It's
So kind of
amazing.
like a foreman.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's listen, I mean, you have in the military, you have people that steer the boat, people that shoot the guns, people that fly the planes, people that do all different jobs. The bosun, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like everything else that keeps the boat
It's
functioning.
literally the glue.
Yeah.
Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that what you fell into?
Yeah. Yeah. So
you
that's
ended up
what
being a bosun?
So that's what I fell into. But then actually,
Did you sign a deal with Bravo yet?
I said I would love to be on Below Deck.
Would you really?
I would so do
It's
it.
wild, dude. You're gonna watch it and you're just gonna cringe.
No,
But
you
it's so
won't.
good.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The
love
last
that
reality show I watched was my big fat
Don't say it.
gypsy wedding.
Okay, good.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
there. It's amazing. Did you watch
There
that yet?
was this one. They had a show about gypsy people.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was before the wedding one that I was here for. They
The
were in
wedding
West
one,
Virginia. and-
Bat shit crazy.
Wait, it was in West Virginia?
Yeah.
I thought that it was based out of England.
dude, it's everywhere.
No, they have these
Really?
pockets of, and they don't like to be called gypsies. So
No.
the Roma population, and they they have pockets everywhere. So there's a big pocket in West Virginia. So this one
Wow.
show was filmed there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was just
Wait,
Let's go
I was
find
here
them.
for it.
gypsies in West Virginia?
I
buddy.
honestly
Yeah.
thought it was just rednecks. It's
No.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of those people are traveling people. I mean, they're
Yeah, there's no home.
No.
yeah.
They just move
but
around.
I thought most of them were in Europe, like UK.
No.
UK. a lot
Most of them are.
A lot of them.
Most of them are.
I mean, anybody could be a gypsy. I don't know.
No, but I would venture to say that 50% of the world's traveling population is in Ireland, Wales, and England.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I think most of
We
them
saw
are.
a lot when
I
we went
think
to,
most
they
of
call
them
them
are.
they call them travelers.
Yeah.
over in
Yeah.
Ireland when I was over there.
Gypsy.
Well, I mean, they would come into those old, when I lived over there, the English estate homes. There was a law in the books. If they set up camp on your property, you had 2 days to get them removed, or they could stay there indefinitely. But it was technically illegal to remove them. So these groups, this traveling circus would of 100 people would move onto these properties. They would steal from local homes and just kind of act like savages for 2 or 3 months until everybody had enough. They'd use up all their resources and stolen what they could, and they'd move on to the next one.
Like Snatch? You ever saw Snatch?
It's exactly like Snatch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Bare knuckle boxing.
how long when you're in the Navy before you get like a position? Before you're assigned like a responsibility at first, and then
As soon as you get there.
Yeah, but you were in Bozeman that fast, were you?
No, I drove. I went on deployment probably a couple weeks right after I got out of boot camp. So I was.
Where'd you go?
We went to the Gulf,
Like Saudi Arabia or
the Arabian Gulf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were off the port of Fort Myers.
Yeah.
So I
ship
drove
were you
the
on?
ship right away. I mean, I'm not doing it by myself. Obviously, I have somebody who's right next to me who's qualified to do it. But yeah, I was surprised that you literally 2 weeks in, and they're like, okay, you're going to drive from, midnight to 4 a.m. and stuff. And you're like, all right,
What kind
I
of
have
ship
no
was
idea
it?
what
How
I'm
many
doing.
Carrier,
A
destroyer?
carrier.
Oh,
How many people were on this ship?
Fully stocked at about 5,000. When you have,
Wait, you're
like, their
driving
pilots.
5,000 people in the water?
Yeah.
2 weeks out of boot camp?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh
a wreck.
man, I'm jumping off this shit.
I have a newfound faith in our military. Yeah.
No wonder why they sell so much Imodium there.
Yeah. Wow.
Wait, is that it? What's that like the first time? Does your
They're
brain?
horrifying. I mean, it's absolutely. I did stuff that I never thought I would ever do or be able to do,
Right.
and in the time span too, it'd be so short. Like you don't have a choice. It's like, hey, we were undermanned when I first got there, so you get thrown right in, and you're just standing. That's part of the standing watch is driving and doing the speed and stuff. So you're doing that right off the bat, and you have somebody with you who's already qualified teaching you how to do it. But I mean, you're in it.
So you're in there.
Wild.
Like,
So that's
you're
like
doing
2005.
Yeah.
I saw it too.
You're
What
doing
happened?
speed,
What happened?
Somebody
like
might
the
have snuck
drug
another
speed.
Jolly Rancher.
Yeah. So you have one person who's driving, and right next to you, that person is doing the speed.
The throttle man,
So,
if you
like-
will.
So, like, how do you drive
not
an
the drug.
aircraft carrier? Like, there's just
It's a destroyer, right?
I was on a carrier.
A carrier.
I was bigger. Yeah,
Wait, an
I mean,
aircraft
you have-
carrier?
Yeah.
How many millions of dollars were
I
at your
know. This
disposal?
is, I'm like deer in headlights. Holy shit!
Like
This is-
5,000 people, a carrier, probably fully loaded. What are we talking about? Like
Billions.
You're
Billions?
talking billions because now you're talking equipment and planes
Billions
and
and
helos
and
and missiles and bombs and torpedoes
Every
and
people,
ammunition.
and at 19 years old,
and that was just 2 weeks after you got out of boot camp.
You got this.
And American government was like, "Hey, yo,
Yeah.
this is
Got
like
this.
$2 billion worth of stuff.
now what year
It's
was
in
this?
your hands."
Just so
Buckle up. Lock the butts up.
Yeah.
Here we go. Amber's
So you
driving.
graduated in 2004. So this would have been in the Bush era.
no, so actually there was a gap between when I left the U and
Yeah.
went to Navy. So I went in 2009.
Got it.
Was when I initially came in.
Got it.
So yeah, so
So
Obama
during the
Obama
years.
was coming in. Yeah,
Right.
he was president. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, it is crazy because like when that ship got stuck in the Suez, I was like,
Oh, I remember
we
that.
drove that. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I drove through there. I was
Wait, you
actually
went
trying
through
to,
there?
yeah, I was trying to find pictures on like an old laptop and stuff because I got to drive through that. So like for instance, something like that, you wouldn't just have somebody who just came out of doing. You'd have somebody who'd been in for a little while and
Or maybe
was
they did, and that's
qualified
why it got
stuff.
stuck.
And
Unless you're a shipping
I
company,
mean,
yeah.
maybe.
Was
Yeah.
was there combat in those years that you were there?
Yeah, I mean, there was different things going on.
I'm sure there's always
No. I know you. Obviously, you can't talk about
There's
like
always
specific
pirates and
combat.
stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, there's always things.
Oh,
And
that's
you're,
really bad over there with pirates, isn't it?
there's
Good
pirates,
now.
and then you're close enough to shore sometimes. I mean, so you have other. We had Iranian planes coming around, like flying around our ship and stuff, and different things happening.
Does that
So
always happen as like an intimidation thing?
I think so too, and I think just checking it out. Hey, let's go. I mean, we would do the same. We'd go look to see what they were doing.
If there was a ship right off of our shore,
Yeah.
we'd go check it out.
Oh,
All right, so
yeah.
this is topical, right? What did the submarine hit yesterday? Did you see this?
No, I did not
Yeah,
see
I
that.
What?
Did you see
Wait,
this?
what?
No.
No.
A United States submarine hit something
Ooh,
Where?
Somebody's fired.
somewhere in the Pacific, and it's limping back to shore now. And they have not announced what they hit. Is that normal?
Was it out in open water?
Yes.
Maybe it was like
I'm thinking kaiju, but what do I know?
Dude, exactly.
Kaiju.
Yeah, like Godzilla, like big,
or like
Pacific Rim type.
I didn't
shit.
know that Godzilla had multiple names.
Yeah, well, the kaiju is like the big monster.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what,
Yeah.
Mothra's a kaiju.
Pacific
Rim.
Rim.
What is Mothra?
Mothra's another monster.
Dude, don't you watch?
You never saw any of the Godzilla?
No. I was busy hanging out with girls when I was in high school. So
That's why I married a girl that knows what a kaiju is. But how often is that an often thing where it's like,
it
we
is
hit
an
a
often thing that you just wouldn't know about because if it gets public, like if it happened and nobody knew, then they would just keep it moving. They would fix it and do whatever. But you have different stuff. People, you can hit another boat, or if it's really small. So like what you were saying with pirates, their boats are super small. So there's sometimes if they get close enough, you might not see them on your radar or something like that or whatever. So there's whales.
Do you run over pirates?
Don't they have like?
is that what you do? Is this Mario Kart on the ocean?
Let's save the ammo. Turn at them.
Yeah.
We're just gonna drill them.
This is an armored boat.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Grand Theft Auto on the sea.
Yeah.
So when you got out, how does that work? So you're just like, you put your time in.
Did your 8 years?
Is that what it is? It's 8 years?
It was the original contract I signed was for 4. So I re-upped after 4. And then when my contract was getting ready to come up, I was going to be deployed again and put back on a ship. And I just became a single mother. And I had a little 8-month-old.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, I'm going to get out.
Did you pay off your student loans?
I actually did. My first deployment, I had an amazing mentor, I guess. And he came in and he was like, is there anything that you want to accomplish during your first deployment and stuff? And I was just like, no. And then he asked me he's like, do you have any finances or loans or anything? And I was like, yeah, I have student loans. So he said, all right, basically save money for when you pull into port so you can get wrecked. And besides that, pay off your loans. So I came out of my first deployment broke because I just threw all of my money at everything that I owed. So I was able to pay it off.
And then you got some of that pirate treasure. And now
to come out of a situation like that debt free is it's not like you didn't make anything.
Right,
You're debt free.
Yeah.
That's 4 years debt free. That's not bad.
Yeah.
No, because the Greeks know finance. Yeah.
People go to school for
that
4
takes
years.
like 12, and if you have to sell a child.
It is crazy. A year ago I was 38 and I just paid off my student loans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like it is insane.
I'm still paying off.
I mean, I have more now. So
So when would you have gotten out? So you were in 2009, so 8 years.
16, 17?
Not that long ago.
No, it's going to be 4 years here soon, I think. So
wow.
Yeah.
So then where did you go from there? Like how do you get from the
how do you
to the
get
Navy
how do you
to
get from a ship in the Gulf of Mexico to the mayor's office?
Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah.
I got out and was pretty burnt out with anything to do with the military. So I went to Marywood. I didn't want to go back to the U, and I went to Marywood. I started school literally the next day after I moved into to my house here.
Jeepers.
Yeah, so we moved in, unpacked, and she started daycare and
Book bag on.
yeah,
There you go.
and I started school. So I got my degree in social work, and while I was there, I met a guy who actually now works at the mayor's office, but he was the veterans coordinator for Marywood. Okay. And he kind of just talked to me and got me to get involved with like the student veterans on campus. So I became involved with the club and started doing different.
So for the idiots like me, the student veterans are the ones who are in the military now in college.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a Student Veterans Alliance on campus, and I ran their social media account at first and different things like that. And then became president and was the first like Black female president of the student veterans on Marywood campus and everything.
That's awesome.
So working with them, I started doing fundraisers and stuff for our club, and then we raised money for other organizations. So I got involved with, Valhalla, Equines for Freedom, and different things like that. And so kind of started making connections and talking to people and getting active in the community. So once I was getting ready to graduate, I actually went out for city council and didn't make it. And I went out because the person.
Look at Aja looking at Alex.
Are you still
Nothing
running?
but love, baby. Nothing but love.
Are you still running?
I'm
You still
running.
running?
Nothing but love.
So the person who did it came off of office of school board. So then there's open spots. So I went out for school board and
Who's that? Was that Schuster?
yeah.
Okay.
And then I ended up, because of that, kind of getting an interview for the job that I have now and, put my resume in and stuff.
Awesome.
So it was almost kind of like a job interview for people who didn't know me, and they got to, kind of hear what I was about, my qualifications, and people thought I'd be a good fit for City Hall. So that's kind of how I ended up at the working right down the street. So
I'm
cool.
always impressed by the veteran community around here. And is there any parallels that you can talk to about other people that you talk to maybe around the country, around the world, where like their veterans experience? Like, is the veteran experience here different, or is it pretty much the same everywhere?
I think it is different.
Here, you think it's different?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have one of the highest veteran populations in the U.S. I think we have maybe like the second highest.
NEPA?
Yeah.
Did
in
not
this
know
area,
that.
we have there's tons and tons of veterans here, and there's a lot of resources and stuff. And this is kind of a family area, and so I think when people come back here, my best friend is a veteran too. So when he got off of active duty, he had his family there to kind of support him and help him out, because it can take a while to get back into the groove, find a job if you need to. So if you have to support yourself 100%, it can be really difficult. And I had a rare experience getting out, because mine was absolutely amazing and kind of flawless. But I think it's because I had, my parents are veterans. So like my mom harassed the shit out of me about, put your disability in, file this, apply for school, like do, constantly in my ears.
It was good to have that.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
So then I was able to, get my daughter on a waiting list for daycare. I applied to school, got in, found an apartment, got everything situated, and was able to kind of just start right off the bat. I did my disability, so I was able to start that as soon as my active duty paycheck stopped. So I didn't have like a gap in pay or anything kind of like that. So but for most people it's not like that at all. It's actually pretty terrible. That's how a lot of veterans end up homeless or with substance abuse issues and stuff like that, because they just don't have a good transition.
So kind of like the way you had your mom or your parents there to help you out. Do they have resources like that to help the veterans when they come out? Someone that could walk them through, coach them, tell them exactly what to do, kind of like the way your parents did for you? No. So you take a class.
Knew she was going there.
You take a class before you get out. It's a week long. And I'm a nerd. So, of course, I, was getting more notebooks and binders and all.
Before you get into that, are you excited for the new Dune?
Oh my God, yeah, I'm really excited.
Okay.
Is it gonna be good? Like, how many times have we been excited though? Like,
I'm still 3 years into waiting for it. And if you want, October 22nd, I got HBO Max. If you want to come over and watch it in the 4K,
I am here for
What are you
it.
talking about?
I have no
Dude, the spice.
The spice.
What are you talking about?
I have no
I'm talking
clue.
about stuff.
Is that a movie?
See, while you were talking to girls, I was talking to the girls who were nerds, and it made me a better person.
I just
You're
don't know
shallow
what Dune
and-
is.
I'm still lost.
It's a Frank Herbert novel. It was like the
Not helping.
Saturn winning. It's considered one of the best science fiction pieces ever written.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
got
Was
it.
the original like 3 hours?
No, that was the David Lynch thing, but then Jodorowsky did something in the set. I know too much about this. So anyways, veterans getting out of...
Yeah. So you go to this class and it's about a week long, but it's a lot of information that they're throwing at you in a short amount of time. I actually ended up doing the class twice because I wanted to make sure I got everything out of it. And exactly. Yeah.
No one wants to do
Yeah.
that.
Just learning how to exit well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And trying to figure it out.
That's how unprepared a lot of people are when they get
No,
out.
they really are. So certain things, they tell you, that your last Christmas in, have your family buy you gas cards so that, when you get out and you're broke, you have gas cards, different types of things. And that was something that, one of the instructors said. And I was like, this is such a great idea.
Does everyone come out broke?
Yeah. I mean, you're moving, you're doing things, if you're still having bills that you had when you had a salary that you don't have now. So, but I paid off my car before I got out because I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to do that. And so that was one of the big things. And that the first class I went to, somebody talked about that. And I was like, all right, so let me set up my payments to make sure by the time I'm getting out, my car's all the way paid off. Like, I'm ready to go.
So like, okay, so what kind of domestic expenses would you have incurred if you were, you know, the Persian Gulf? Like, I mean, did you have a cell phone? Did you pay for your cell phone?
So some people keep their cell phones on, but you can turn it off for deployment. And but I mean, if you're paying your car insurance, you can pause that.
Yeah.
Car payments, though, you still,
Right.
if you're renting or own a house and stuff, you still have to pay that, storage fees, child support, whatever else.
What do you
people.
think? The Navy's like, all your bills will stop now.
I don't know. I'm
And
thinking
you have
like,
a lot of people who support their families.
right? But I'm
too.
thinking like an 18-year-old kid gets out of school and just like, oh, I'm gonna join the army.
If he's paying his mom's light bill,
right?
and and everything like that.
Oh my God, is that? I never even thought about that.
That's
Well, a lot of kids, I would imagine, sign up to help the family.
Yeah.
Because they just need money for the family.
Yeah. And they target minorities and people of color and poor people. So you kind of have.
Oh, you didn't know that?
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome to America.
Yeah.
Oh, we had recruiters in my high school in Brooklyn like every week.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, they're not going into
They're
like
not the private
nice
schools, man.
No.
Have you heard of the Army? They're like, get the fuck out of here.
Here's like, whatever. What's the GI Bill now? Like, what do they pay? 10, 20?
Don't look at me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Wait.
Anybody?
To go to school?
20 grand a year?
No, I think it's 40.
They give you like basically like.
I think it's 40. It's like 40 something.
40,
grand.
yeah, whatever.
It's like
They
40
give you
something
money to
grand.
sign up. And they're like, here.
Oh, you mean the bonuses?
Yeah.
Yeah, signing bonus.
Signing bonus, yeah.
Wait, there's a signing bonus?
For some jobs, For like harder jobs or jobs that are hard to fill.
Yeah.
You
Really?
can,
So was that? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean.
I was just going to say, do they need anybody that specializes in boutique retail and salon ownership?
They might.
You're too old. You're too old.
I know. What's the cutoff? 35?
Micah, don't ask, don't tell.
It depends. Each branch has different cutoffs, and certain specialties will have different cutoffs as well. And they've changed.
I'm definitely too old.
You're too old.
So, that's a thing that I
So
don't
we
think.
didn't answer the resources part because I mean to me that's so important.
Oh, so
Like,
what
we
I
gotta
was
be
saying,
able-
there's
we gotta be
nobody
able to
who
have the
like
resources.
I think you need to have maybe like a mentor one-on-one where you're getting out, that's somebody that's assigned to you, so that you can have somebody specifically who you can call and have to walk through. Because giving somebody the number to like the VA,
Is there groups that do that after?
I kind of.
To your question, maybe it's not the military that's doing it, but maybe a nonprofit or something organized outside of
There
that.
is, and then we have a lot of those here, but there's areas that don't really have that, or areas that don't have a VA hospital at all. So you have people who kind of don't have those things that are really close by. And our VA has a women's clinic just for female veterans. And so I can't speak for like the whole VA, but my experience there, it has been really great.
My sister-in-law works at Murley.
So it's our VA situation here is great. I've seen some VAs in other places that are really, really bad.
Well, we used to hear horror stories about down in DC. What's the VA hospital down there? What's the name of it? Do you remember?
Walter Reed?
Walter Reed. Yeah,
Walter Reed,
there was a period of time where it was like Walter Reed is like like Chechnya in the early 2000s.
Where
like
you're going to die.
No, but I mean that's a lot of things that like people like Jon Stewart get up in arms about, where it's like, hey man, these people you put them in the crosshairs,
because you really
and then
have
you don't
to
take care of them.
advocate for yourself.
Yeah,
and sometimes
is that a pride thing? Maybe people don't want to.
It's.
I have to ask for help. I'm weak.
I think sometimes it is because you're trained for so long to like have it together. Right. And then now you come to the end and you're now supposed to admit that you don't have it together. So it's like, because
what a strange.
So it is hard for people to kind of turn that off and say, okay, I've never said my back is hurt because I wanted to be able to deploy and I wanted to be able to stay active duty and stuff. So I lied for 10 years and said nothing's wrong with my back.
Yeah, now it looks like a question mark.
Yeah, so now I have to kind of admit when I'm getting out, if I want disability, which I probably need to say, hey, my back is actually really injured. I need to go through the process of doing that. And I think sometimes it is people think they're weak and they don't want to admit that, or people think that they're not deserving. There's a lot of veterans, especially my generation, like Iraqi, Afghanistan veterans and stuff like that, who feel like we don't deserve it because we weren't in Vietnam. We weren't part of World War II and stuff. Or I wasn't a combat vet, or I didn't get blown up. So why should I use resources that somebody else is using? But ding, 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 you earned them, and nobody's using, like, they're specifically there for you.
In the spiritual world, it's about set and setting. I don't think anything really changed from Vietnam to Iraq. You know, it's like you still have people shooting at you.
I've had a conversation with one of my buddies, Dave Hess, who's...
I love Dave Hess.
Dave Hess, yeah. So he's
insanely beautiful.
Vietnam vet, but he was telling me, like, and I forget if it was the American Legion or the VFW, one of them, if you were a Vietnam vet, they were like, yeah, you're to the curb. Like, we don't care you, you know.
Well, I mean, you got to realize this, too, that when the Vietnam veterans came home from the war,
horrible.
They were treated terribly.
But, like, the World War II guys were like, whatever. You know.
I don't think so. Do you think so?
That's what he told me. One of the, it was, again, either American Legion or VFW. Was rough experience. So
anyway. I mean, was there, you know, as a woman of color who goes into the Navy, did you ever hear about those stories about like how they treated the veterans in Vietnam, and where you're like, man, I don't want to be that. Like, I don't want to.
Oh yeah. I mean, you definitely
like, you don't want, like, you know, you're out there doing something noble, and you don't want anybody to think you're a piece of shit.
I mean, you definitely hear stories like that, and I mean, I remember reading books about that. They sat like black soldiers behind Nazis on buses and different things, and how like you were, and there was towns actually where
not to be a dick, but if I'm on a busload of Nazis, I want to be behind them.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair.
That's all I'm saying.
That's fair.
Or they would try to impose segregation in places where the military was stationed, you know, overseas in like France. They try to segregate the soldiers, and the towns would be like, no, we're not doing that. So you had people treated horribly as veterans coming back from Vietnam, and then you had black veterans still having to deal with segregation
in France. In like the 70s,
well, coming back World War II or Vietnam?
Vietnam,
what?
coming back. Yeah, coming back from that. Still,
I thought we'd kind of settled that by Vietnam.
Dude, ignorance doesn't end with the snap, with the Thanos snap of his finger.
No.
Like
and so you had a lot of reasons people hid being veterans, not just because people looked down on Vietnam veterans, but also black veterans. It was looked at as like, oh, you uppity now. Like, you come back, you fought in this war, you think you're doing something. And they were actually targeted, and they were told, but like, don't wear your uniform out when you come back, because that puts a target on your back. So there's a lot of reasons that people were just treated terrible. You know, the GI Bill has been around federally for years, but they weren't able to get it or able to use it. So, you know, when you talk about when you talk about things being like systemic racism, and we have our greatest generation where our grandparents were able to buy houses and cars, and they went to war and they came back and they were able to go to school and do different things, and people of color were denied those things. So I think when like our grandparents were building wealth and kind of, and when I say wealth, I don't necessarily mean like they were super rich, but just building things like you're going to inherit your grandparents' house and your parents got it.
Sure.
Doing those things, it wasn't available to people of color. So we were kind of left out of that big growth and big boom period. And veterans too were left out of that as well. And, you know, I think I think that kind of had now trickle down effect of kind of this same gap that we have now. Cause a lot of people I hear, you know, you guys have the same opportunities that everybody has. And it's like, yes, on paper, but in reality, when you put it, you know, when it was being implemented, it kind of wasn't really like that.
So I started off the pandemic as a pink hat wearing liberal. If anybody doesn't know, Amber's daughter Jacqueline's here, and she's super duper adorable. And I'm trying my best not to.
We're trying not to corrupt her.
Yes.
So I
too late. Lean into it. Let's go.
I'll say all the Carlins. I started off the pandemic as an uber liberal, and somewhere in the first month, I got really, because I was considered non-essential. And even if I wanted to like break the rules, no one was willing to break the rules with me so I could make money.
Yeah.
Right. Because they were like, well, then people will know, just because of my discipline is media. So if I go take a photo of somebody, a video of somebody, they're like, but people will know that I was out.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So I had a lot of time to go, and I hated Trump. Hated him.
Yeah.
He was like the nothing from the Neverending Story. Like, I hated that dude. And then I started, to ask myself questions like, why do I hate people? Why am I right? You know, did they hurt me? Did they hurt somebody I love? Did they do? And when I started to realize, I also went on a very bizarre spiritual journey, which we can talk about off the podcast. But one of the basic core tenets of it was about your independence as a human being, where you're independent of thought. No one should be able to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
No one should be able to tell you what to think, who to love. And it really started to bother me that there was one political party that started to do that. And it wasn't the party I hated. And it really threw me for a loop.
Right.
So I guess now I'm at this point where I'm like, I think there's both plates are piles of shit. And I'd like a third option. or is there a way for me to like scoop little pieces off?
Yeah.
That smell less.
You're like, okay, we're just.
I think, and I also think that like everyone has kind of forgotten about what America actually means to the world.
Yeah.
And that is, you were talking about before about like how families, like you would let, the grandparents would give it to their kid, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that is a thing that only existed in America because in other countries you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
The dictatorship or the king or whoever would own that land.
Yeah.
And there's something about America where I started to realize, yeah, we have our problems. There are a lot of things, but if we don't talk to each other and we keep talking at each other, there's not going to be any, and we can't listen to the people who are telling us what to think and what to feel.
And if we actually had conversations, I think you'd
like
think
nuanced conversation.
Yeah, and real ones. And sometimes they're going to be uncomfortable, and sometimes you're just not going to agree. But you have to work together. And I think that both sides got real extreme, and then you only hear the real extreme voices. And a lot of times I get frustrated. Like, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat, but
that's all right.
But
no one's perfect. No one's perfect.
But I'll be
Amber.
like, who is saying this? Who is this? And it's so frustrating because some of the stuff is just so ridiculous. And you're like, this is making all of us look bad. And I think that everybody from whatever side you're on can feel that pain of like, you're making everybody look bad in this group because you want to just be off on your own side. And I think most people are just regular, smegular people that just want to live their life like, hey, neighbor, or hey, neighbor, I don't actually like, but I'm waving to you because I don't want to be rude. Like, just
yeah, but it's better than going, hey, fuck you, neighbor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather wave because if I say that, it's just going to be a difficult week.
I think there's like a 60% where, logical people live because there's 20% on one side that's absolute bullshit.
So remember, I've been saying this, and I said everybody.
No one ever said you were wrong.
Yeah,
we all live in like a bell curve, right?
The problem
Aja
is
just likes the fact that somebody comes in here and confirms that we all agree with him.
We all agree with you, Aja.
Yes, Aja.
Stop taking it so personally. No, like you said, there's like the 10 to 15% on either side.
Right.
It's like you people are batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
it's
problem
actually less than 15%.
Yeah,
they're loud.
It's like
they're
loud.
But the problem,
like
it's not that they're loud. It's that's what gets
and that's
the attention.
That's what gets amplified.
Yeah, and because that's the
kid
thing
in
that
the
gets
room that
attention.
screams the kid in the room that screams the loudest is who you're going to pay attention to.
Right.
Because I
always
have
the
so
way.
many Republican friends and Trump supporter friends.
How dare you?
And and they'll
dare
always
you.
ask me about some like obscure thing, and I'm like, nobody feels that way except for the two people that said that. And the rest of us think they're crazy too,
like,
but that's the things that kind of get traction and gets amplified.
Yeah.
And then people think that's everybody. So then you kind of, people meet me and they're like, oh, well, you don't want to take our guns away? No, I have guns. I was a gunner's mate. Like that was my job.
Yeah.
I'm from Gouldsboro. Like I shoot,
I have two in my pocket right now.
And they're surprised.
Just one.
And I'm just like, no, you can have. Everybody can be a little bit of something. It's not all or nothing.
So I started to lean conservative because I started to think to myself, so I do political ads and stuff, right? And a lot of the times, like I would do it for both parties, didn't matter, but I was hardcore.
Because that money's green.
Yeah. Green Party.
Right. I will say
Gotta
this.
love the
In
Green
this
Party.
area, the Republicans know this. They don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
The Democrats, there's too much of it.
Yeah.
It's like 5-to-1 spending.
And what was I saying?
You don't pick sides. You notice something.
anyways.
You like money.
So when I would do
You
when
like
I would
money.
do Republican campaigns, like as a joke, I would be like, "Do you hate the gays?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Do you hate black people?" They're like, "No." I don't know why people think that we hate. And I said, "Okay." Like it was a joke, but if I ever had one that goes like, yeah, I'm like, all right, I don't need your money. Because I don't think anybody should hate anybody.
No.
Yeah.
Unless like they
deserve.
Unless you ran over my dog.
Right.
I have no reason to hate you because you have not harmed myself or my property. The point I started to, what I don't know what happened. I think Trump broke people's brains. And I think the people whose brains that he broke rolled with it, which is really bizarre. I never believed in Trump derangement syndrome. I never thought that I was one of those people until I was like, oh my God, he's right.
Some people really did just lost it. They just went down a rabbit hole that you can't. I'm like,
I think I saw you on election day. I was doing an interview at the Mediterranean,
The Garden.
The Garden. Was I picking people?
I think you were driving by. I think you had like a minivan.
Yeah, because I was taking people to the polls.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had to get. The Fringe asked me to go do an interview on election day, and it was.
Because I did one with them.
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
So with Pissy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is my favorite name. So I was. And Micah knows of my transition, and
it was a very awkward transition.
I was convinced that it was a setup because my whole ideology was like, we need to like love each other again, like we need to talk to each other again, like this divisiveness, especially on this day.
Yeah.
Like
think new school hippie.
Yeah.
That is Marky.
I feel the same way. I think we do, and like because when I was driving people to the polls, I remember. I posted about it and people were like, well, are you just doing Democrats? No, do everybody. And most of us Democrats voted early actually I picked up mostly Republican Trump supporters, but I had
Would they open the side door and kind of like do the double? Should I get in this minivan?
Is there free candy in the back?
Most people were so thankful that somebody was doing this. Like most people were just so thankful that somebody was able to take them to vote.
Right.
And they never had that opportunity before, or
it was
always
the
complicated.
Elderly, right?
It was. Oh,
really?
I think some maybe older millennials. I did have.
Wait, what's an older millennial?
Yeah.
Like past 36,
I'm an older millennial.
We're older millennials, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
goodness.
I might want to pick up drinking again.
It's
all downhill from here.
Association with millennials.
I don't. I actually love it.
I love it too. I embrace it. I'm like, no, what I
you're
grew
upset
up
with the millennial word. I'm upset with the older word.
Well, the old whatever. I'm gonna die at some point, but like.
Is that a Greek thing? Jesus.
Gen X.
But what I started to do was I started to I'll give you for instance, right? I changed my registration before the election. And I changed my registration because it seems to me that I have no say in the Democratic primary here.
No.
No matter what happens, no matter who I vote for, I have no say in it because there's a machine.
Yeah.
I might have a say in the Republican primary, right? I changed my registration. Within 4 days, I get hired to go shoot Eric Trump speak up at Gianetti's. I think it was like 2-3 days before. Now, here I am, lapsed liberal, who's still like, am I? Am I not? I don't know.
He's ambiguous.
I'm the ambiguous.
Politically
ambiguous.
Yeah, I'm the ambiguously gay duo of the political world.
Yeah.
My car looks like a penis.
This is definitely getting canceled. There's no way this whole thing's not getting canceled.
Yeah.
But I got in that room, and my cousins know him well, right? And I would always say he's a scumbag. He's a scumbag.
Yeah.
I got in that room. And there was a private room. There was a private meet and greet prior to whatever vitriolic stuff that politicians say on stages. Mm. And I was in there for an hour, and I watched him interact with, children who are terribly ill, their families, people who've lost their jobs. He was as gracious and as kind as anyone I have ever seen politically. And even when the people walked out of the room, when he was with his buddies and he could say something shitty, he was genuine the whole time. And it was really striking to me to be like, wait a second, this guy is not a monster.
Yeah.
It's just when there's TV cameras, they know because their whole life's been on TV. Right. You got to stoke the fire. Yeah. And then
I think that's what's just so frustrating is people like Trump would just say stuff. And I'd be like, if he just didn't say anything about anything,
My father
you
would
could
say.
have You know, like when the messaged me about the historically black colleges and the funding for that. A minute? So like Trump gave a lot of funding to historically black colleges and universities and things like that who have been historically underfunded.
Right.
So
it's like 250 million a year or more than that?
Like it was more than that, I think, overall. And it was a really good thing, but it got lost in translation because even today, there was the interview where he was like, all the Haitians probably have AIDS. And I was like, see, if you just wouldn't say stuff.
Who said all Haitians have AIDS?
Donald Trump did earlier. And I was just like,
is it when he talked about like all these like shithole countries?
No, this was new today.
No, this is new.
They asked him a question and I was just like, this is not right.
Did he really? But here's my problem. Like remember Charlottesville?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a thing that was a narrative for it's like good people on both sides, right? One of the first things I did was I watched the Charlottesville press conference in its entirety. Mm-hmm. And 90 seconds before he said that, he's like, I do not condone white supremacy, any of that stuff. And then 90 seconds after he said it again and repeated it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why did they go with the piece in the middle? Right. And not the two pieces on the side where he absolutely condoned or not condemned. Yeah. I don't know why I always screw that up.
It was like the one town hall. They just kept hammering and asking the same.
He's like, how many times do you want me to say it?
But on the other side of that, though,
hold on.
I was in Virginia during that time.
I'm sure it was terrifying to be there. And it was
absolutely terrifying. And the racism just got so much worse when Trump became president. But
my question is why?
I think he gave people a reason to, like, instead of keeping things inside, to just be vocal about them. Like, I can be...
Or is it possible that it seems that people in the power structures can use that as chum?
No, because I mean, on a personal level, people got more racist. Like,
would you say racist since when?
So I was in the military for... the end of like Obama, and then I was still serving under Trump. And
so what, you got out in like 2017, maybe?
2018.
2018, okay.
So when people were having conversations, I mean, I had sailors telling Spanish sailors, well, Trump's going to deport you and he's going to kick you out. Or I had people telling me, well, they're not allowed to speak another language. You know, our language is English. Or just different things. I mean, I was called a nigger in uniform. You know, I was called you people in uniform.
By somebody above or below you?
Both.
Ooh.
Really?
People outside, just in the stores. I remember. Yeah, I remember I was in the dollar store with one contact in my eye because one fell out, and I was trying to find contact solution.
I learned that from my porno days. It's hard to walk around with one eye open.
And I'm in the store, and there's an elderly white couple, and they were reaching for something, so I grabbed it. And the woman says, oh, you know, thank you. And her husband looks at me and he's like, you're so tall. And my boots, I was probably close to 6 feet because they were pretty tall. Right. And I'm joking around. I said, oh, I get it from my mom, you know. And he's like, you people are always blaming your mothers. And I was like, sir,
that has nothing to do with anything.
I'm getting you your short self, like something up here. I'm trying to help. I literally have one contact in my eye, one contact in my mouth because I needed to save my contact because I had to drive.
I never trusted people who put contacts in their mouth.
Like it was terrible. It was just a horrible situation all the way around. I couldn't let it dry up because I couldn't see.
No, it turns to plastic.
I was in the middle of like a 24-hour shift at work, and then I had to deal with these people, and I'm just looking at them like, and I literally just sighed. And me and the wife made eye contact, and she kind of like, you know, I'm sorry, and I was just like, it is what it is. I mean,
thank you for fucking protecting our country.
So, I mean, in all fairness, you did have a contact in your mouth, so that's a pretty trash bag move right there.
It was. And the thing is, I took my time that I was being gross. You know, I should have been rushing more.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Well, I mean, it always goes back to that saying, kindness will kill you faster than a bullet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I started to kind of, so I started looking at numbers for like COVID and stuff like that. And I tried to give myself perspective because you have to do like a risk assessment for your entire life, right? So when it came to things like that, I started to think about, is this everyone or is it just some that people shine spotlights on? So what I started to think about, like, in your situation, right? So I would think about it in a way, and not to say that you do this or I'm trying to do it. This is just how I do it. So I'd think about like how many people are in the supermarket? How many people are in this place? Okay, one person was an asshole. I have to disregard that one person because there's going to be assholes in this world. There's going to be ignorant, stupid people, right? And a lot of people's ignorance and stupidity, strangely enough, comes from trauma, which can be shared by everyone.
Yeah.
And not that I'm not like when I hear stuff like that, I don't excuse it, but I feel sad for them.
Yeah.
I feel sad for people who act that way because I'm like, what happened?
What happened that
for
you are
to
doing
get
this?
here?
Yeah.
Like if you're in your 70s and you're still a dick,
yeah.
Like what happened? And I think it's across, and I think it's every country, every piece of land on this blue majestic planet that you
flat planet.
Yeah, round, where the giants are in Pakistan.
Yep.
I want to talk about the giants. Shut up. That's a different. Well, off camera. So,
I told you an hour in the conspiracy theories come.
And
wow.
And it's people in Spain probably have these conversations. People in South America, if you're in Honduras, if you're in Russia, if you're in like there's a bunch of people who have shit. And there's a bunch of people who don't. And the people that have shit seem to look down on the people who don't have shit. And I think that transcends the differences that we focus on to separate ourselves. Yeah. I think the true spirit of what it is to be a human being is to get along with your fellow man. And if you don't, hasta luego. You don't need to be part of this tribe because you're not going to be productive. Yeah. You're not going to be part of it. But the more we parse the groups into smaller groups, it just gets. But it just gets really difficult.
I think that's human nature, though. I think it's human nature to break. The tribalism is human nature. Yeah. I mean, you look at,
I agree with
my
that.
team versus your team or my neighborhood. I hear it all the time here in Scranton. It's West Side versus South Side. And it's this and
it's
that.
West
It's
Side
like,
versus everybody.
Well, it's West Side versus everybody, first of all.
We've been flu and you can back off.
Yeah. But like, it's very normal. Like, I mean, yeah, it's like, the Hatfields and the McCoys. Well, now all of a sudden you have a visible differentiate, like skin color. Which to me, I mean, if I'm really going to break it down, it is got to be borderline mental illness to think that somebody is a different character set because of the color of their skin. It's insanity. Yeah, but I see the tribalism. But the question is, what do we do? What are we going to do about it? And that's where kind of I reached out to you and I saw that you had posted something. I was like, okay. And you and I talked about this a little bit on the phone before we got on here. And I'm like, this is what I don't understand. And this is what I was really interested in delving into is you have somebody in a Donald Trump who just said some of the wildest stuff. When it came to race and women and just character issues, morality issues for days. And yet somehow, and I could be wrong, it seemed like black unemployment was at an all-time low. HBCUs are more funded than they ever have been.
There was a criminal reform bill.
Bill. The criminal reform bill that was put in place by his political opponent in the last presidential election. And yet somehow the majority of minorities in the country voted for Joe Biden.
No.
Who has the majority of minorities voted for Joe Biden, who has done more in his political career to hurt minorities than probably any other politician. And I can't wrap my head around it.
Which is his crime bill from the 90s.
Yeah. And so when I saw your post, 94. I'm like, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because number one, I don't really get into I'm a straight white man, so I get to have an opinion too. But let's bring on somebody who's going through it. Let's bring on somebody that this is their life.
Yeah.
I can have an opinion, but I'm not living it. So let's talk about it. And that's what I was really intrigued to get your perspective because I see what everybody else is seeing. I see those two people for who they were. I see some of the things that Donald Trump says in almost an off-the-cuff manner. But I can't wrap my head around this, the same year that Donald Trump was receiving an award for excellence in the black community, like an NAACP Man of the Year from Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden was in the Senate arguing for segregation of schools. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and then later on in his career, Joe Biden with the crime bill and just some of the insanely racist things that he said, in my opinion, worse than Trump. And yet somehow this is the outcome.
Right.
I can't wrap my head around it.
I mean, I think
Help
there's
me
so
understand,
many,
Amber.
I think there's so many different things at play, and I think that one
It's
of
important,
them.
Amber. Get that close.
Yeah. Teach us. Tell us what we need to know because I can't understand it.
I think you have issues where people want to believe that somebody can be redeemed, you know? And so if you look at, so I think a lot of people looked at things with Joe Biden and said, he did this a long time ago. And everybody who, like most of the people who signed the crime bill have all come out against it and realized like that was a terrible idea. Didn't help crime. You know, we could have
Except for Kamala Harris, who ran with it in California.
We could have been better, you know?
Yeah.
And then you also, I think, have then somebody who more recently was being very loud about things that irritated people and people took as racist. And then you had not just him, but I think the trickle down effect really affected people because, like I said, I started to experience more racism. It started to just get more open and out in the front.
It happened with Obama?
And it started, like, I saw things with Obama with people that I kind of was like, oh, okay, I didn't really know that you felt that way.
Or did it happen
about.
because you left Northeastern PA?
So both, because I loved it here, and people here, there's a huge difference between being ignorant, like truly ignorant, where
the mild racism of Northeastern PA.
You don't know any black people. You like, I dated a guy, and his mom was like, you know, what does she eat? You know,
probably better food than you. It's seasoned.
What?
That's
so
what I know.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
So you have things like that to where it's like, okay.
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm against racial stereotypes, but black people cook better. That's just it is what it is.
I'm just laughing about like what is she eats kibble. Like what the fuck do you think she eats? Like I'm sure if you give her a steak, she'll be fine.
You ever heard of Goya? It'll save your life.
Right. So you have people who just are kind of ignorant and don't know. And then you have people who truly just hate people.
Yeah.
You know, regardless. And most of those people, they hate more than one person. You know, they have their list of, you know, everybody who they're against.
Who wronged them.
Who wronged them and things like that. So
people are far more racist than like American people.
Ethnics?
Ethnic people.
Wait, are you saying that minorities in America are more racist than white people?
I'm saying people of ethnic descent, like just got to this country or first generation, very racist. Trust me.
Well, all I know is
Alex just outed himself.
No, I mean, we have these conversations.
Tell us what people groups you don't like, Alex.
Saying a word.
Well, I know
I love people. No,
my son, he's our kids are half Irish, half Greek, and my son's not allowed to tell his girlfriend's grandfather that he's half Irish, half Greek because he hates the Irish and the Greeks. They're Italian.
Both? What?
Yeah, he hates both.
Yeah, that's been around here for generations.
And not like why can't you find you a nice Italian boy? Like hates them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I know Italian, Irish, no go, but Italian, Greek, it's like we've been mixing.
I'm a perfect.
Well, and that's the problem. Okay, you guys have been race mixing for generations.
Well, not out telling the
my father's Italian, my mother's Irish. So we are the exceptions to the rule.
Yeah. Not Italian.
My Irish.
No wonder you had a drinking problem.
My Irish grandfather would tell my mother, "With those big balls, you're going to be pregnant all the time," and he called them Hitalians, and that was his ignorance, and now we think it's funny.
It is,
but
I think it's funny.
That's how it was here. It was the Irish, the Polish, the Italians, like they were. Yeah. But at the same time, like I was talking to my uncle. He's like in his 70s right now, and we were talking about stuff like this. And he's like, yeah, like we said rude shit when we were kids. You know, he's like, we knew who the gay people were. We had our words for them.
Yeah. He's
like, but we'd invite them over to dinner. Right. They were our friends, and it was kind of like, you know, when the Italians are like, hey, you old Italian, or you old Irish, you old Mick. Right. Like, that's the way it was. There was almost like a. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but they weren't like overtly cruel or, you know, and I think so. I don't know what happened when Obama came in, because I was like, hey, dude, I voted for him twice.
Yeah, same.
And then I saw, for some reason, racism started back up.
There definitely was a backlash, though. There was a backlash of like, who is this uppity Negro coming in here who went to Harvard and is smart and, you know, and got to this position. And I think there was people who were very surprised that happened and just didn't like him on that. And I think some people probably were surprised maybe about their feelings about it and stuff. But I mean, I worked in places where you have to, like, department you're on in the military, you have to have the chain of command hung up, you know, and they wouldn't hang Obama's picture up because they didn't like him. And it was like, all the presidents we've had, you don't like this one that much that we can't just hang his picture up here, you know, and it's, you know, people had feelings about it and it kind of just, and I think that was part of it. And I think there was then this.
Did that happen with Trump too?
Well, I think there was this elitism backlash that happened with Obama because he was so polished and smart and spoke very well. And I think he made stupid people feel stupid. And, you know, he was from, you know, he wasn't a good old boy, you know, so he wasn't catering to the people that say Donald Trump is catering to. And I think that people felt left behind and left out about that. And it became about, well, he's a Muslim, you know, he's black, he doesn't care about white people or whatever. And all these things that just didn't normally.
Right.
That part actually didn't start. It actually started from Hillary. It was Hillary Clinton that first brought up that whole Muslim and
with that picture.
Like, yeah.
Wait, was that during the first presidential race?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, so it wasn't the Republican.
No.
It was Hillary that started this whole thing. And then the Republicans took it over and exploited that and then turned it into something bigger. You know what I'm saying? So like,
I mean, I still working for what I worked for Biden for the Biden campaign, and I still had people telling me like Obama was a Muslim, and I'm like, no, like, it was.
So for me, that's like one of the things that
if he was terrible at it.
That was one of the things that
Keep going.
No, I'm saying that's like one of the things that I don't like about Hillary. And it was one of the reasons. You know, between Trump and Hillary, I'm like, Trump is far better. Like, I don't care. Like, Hillary, there was something about her, right? But we were just talking about, you know, like what happened to race and if like the increase started back with Obama or.
So there's a lot of people who think that he made racism come back, you know, and I think that there's this misconception that when people of color talk about race, we're like race baiting or we want to make everything about race. And it's like, if you think about how many times you all have spoke about your ethnicity just in this conversation, how much of that is a part of you and how much you talk about it.
But when
black people talk
he
about
does a lot.
Yes, but
I am the most boring, racially undiverse.
You're
American.
But you told me what your heritage was.
No,
you
my
said,
kids.
Or your kids. You said what yours was. You've said what yours was. But when a black person talks about being black, somehow it's seen as different. Like it's seen as like you're making everything about race. And it's like, no, this is part of who I am. The same way that people here talk about
cultural
being
identity,
Italian and different things. You're going to talk about it, and talking about it doesn't make anybody racist or doesn't mean you're race baiting just because you're just having a conversation, even talking about differences or different things. And I think that if people would look at the word black in the same way that they look at the word Italian or Irish, and culturally, I think that we would move past a lot of things. Because I mentioned being black, and I've had people say like, "Oh, why are you bringing up race?" Well, you mentioned being Irish. I'm mentioning being black. Like that's
okay. But no, wait a second. There's. So I always, Aja is the voice of reason for us, and he's the voice.
I don't know. About
just so you know our roles, he's kind of the moderator, the voice of reason. I just like to throw grenades and walk out of the room.
And Alex likes to talk about Greece.
Yeah.
So Aja has many unique perspectives, especially being an immigrant.
Yeah.
You know, like one of the most profound things that Aja ever said to me was, I said, "What do you miss about Ghana?" And he goes, "I miss freedom." And that broke my brain because I said, "What does that mean?" He goes, "It means we don't worry about like what everybody looks like, what cars they're driving, what clothes they're wearing, what haircuts they have." He's like, "We're just people." So I always, when Aja starts talking, I like to shut up.
We start listening.
But you were saying about Hillary. I didn't know that about Hillary.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she was the one that started the...
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude,
but that's...
Even the black community, when Obama started, the black community didn't even like Obama.
Why is that?
Why?
Did they think that he thought he was better than them?
Yeah, I think they felt...
Really?
Because I was one of the... In Scranton.
Like,
are you first generation?
No, he's an immigrant.
He's off the boat.
So you're okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm off the boat.
Yeah.
So I remember,
air Ghana.
Yeah.
Air Freak.
Is that what it's called? Air Freak?
Afrique,
Oh, okay.
dummy. This
I'm
one
an
over
idiot.
here.
I'm an
From the
idiot.
country of Africa, we're like, it's a continent. He's like, okay.
So like I think like
It's a
when
beautiful country.
when Obama had some people over in Scranton way before he started, I think like in 2004, 5.
Kind of like an exploratory committee.
Yeah. And I remember like I used to like talk to people about him.
Around here.
Yeah. Like, some of my black friends, and they had no clue. They didn't like the guy. And
Really?
yeah. And they all made remarks. I mean, obviously the kind of people that I was hanging out with as well. Me being educated, they not really. So there was that separation. Right. And, but then that grew, like it was the whole thing, the gap started widening.
Right around that time.
Yeah. And I for the life of me, just couldn't understand why blacks wouldn't come around this guy. Right. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, but then I realized it's the elitist in me, my education and everything. I love the way the guy spoke.
Right.
He's a phenomenal orator.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
If he would stop saying so much. He does say a lot.
Because he's thinking.
Look, if that's, I'm okay with it.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're going to go back through communicators, he's up there at the top.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly of all time, not even just president.
Yeah,
he's up there.
He's a brilliant communicator.
He knows, and I couldn't, but then I just started realizing, and then how a lot of them thought Bill Clinton was the first black president.
I just told people that, and they had me. I think actually the ladies that I work with in my office, and they were like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." I said when he got on our Arsenio Hall show playing his saxophone, I'm saying they said he was the first black president. They were like, "No way, he won that night."
Do you know? Even till now, a lot of black people still think Bill Clinton is the first black president.
Hold on. They think he's actually black?
No.
Wait a minute.
No.
Black is in
Sauce.
spirit.
He's got
sauce.
He got sauce.
Yeah,
Learning and growing.
he does.
We're becoming cooler by
I
the
think
minute.
he eats
Come here, baby.
chicken wings and all that stuff.
Oh, he smoked.
Yeah, he smokes chicken wings.
He smokes Newports.
He likes whiskey.
Yeah.
Like all these things, right? And I could not for the life of me. And I think that is where I saw like that campaign, 2006, 7. That was where I saw the big difference between the white and black when Hillary did that and started injecting all of these things into it. And it was so subtle, and the press did not pick out on that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, am I the only person that sees this?
No. I mean, in liberal circles, I mean, people were pissed because they were like, we can't damage our candidates this bad in a primary to the point where now we're giving the other side fuel to use against them.
And they did. 8 years.
Yeah.
8 years, the same thing. So like all that, like, they call the birther thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know it wasn't even Trump that started? It was Hillary that started and said he was born in Kenya. Not kidding.
And guess who was friends with Trump at that time?
The Clintons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
We've got background music. It's awesome.
Jacqueline.
Yeah.
So like all of that.
So what he just said is stuff that I started to realize. And I'm like, I don't care where the wave took everybody. Where did it start?
Yeah.
Because that's the landslide that matters. Because that was the butterfly effect that affected everyone.
Yeah.
And if it's Hillary, I don't want her. I don't want that glass ceiling broken with her. I don't want it. I never did. And I lived in LA when Kamala was the attorney general there. She was a bastard. She wouldn't pay for DNA tests to exonerate criminals because she can get work out of them.
Yeah.
That to me is unforgivable.
And for that, though, I would just like to say that should be, if anybody's like on death row or something, like a DNA test, that should be an automatic thing for you.
But it's
to
like $15.
Yeah, like come on, let's just.
Well, it keeps her numbers up, so she looks good for re-election.
But that's the thing. It's like I started to look about it like forget the party. It has to be about the people, and
It does have to be about the people,
and their rhetoric has to match their action.
But I think that people need to overall feel like a party cares about them and cares about their needs or their wants, and isn't racist. And I don't know how to get the message from the top Republicans and the top people to like just everyday people that we're all interacting with on a regular basis that are normal, as opposed to this very crazy strong rhetoric that's like, we hate the gays, we don't want anybody to get married. We don't believe in this. We don't believe in that. And then it's like, but everyday regular people on the ground really probably just don't even care. They want people, they want to be happy themselves and live their own life, and whatever their neighbor's doing, if it's not hurting them, I don't think
that's basically Republican.
I think that people don't really, but the message gets lost once it gets to the big platform, because then it gets real Jesus-y and real, evangelical. And look, and I'm not saying like I'm making look. I am making a blanket statement. You know what I'm making a blanket statement, but that's really how people see it and how it really comes across to people is like, well, they're very religious. They're evangelical. They want to make their own religious Sharia law. Like they believe that we need to follow the Bible. And I hate that part of it. And not because I think there's anything wrong with religion or the Bible having a moral compass that way through religion, whatever. But I think when you get into where people feel like you're forcing that on them and they don't necessarily agree, and you kind of lose people in there. And I know that perception doesn't mean it's reality, but for a lot of people, perception is reality, and they're not going to dig deeper.
Perception is reality.
And they see that and they're like, oh, well, the Republicans are trying to pass a law that gay people shouldn't get married in this state. So all Republicans hate gay people.
Hold on. Let me jump in here.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I was only going to say,
tag team it.
I was only going to say that I don't like evangelicals. I'm a Christian. They all know that.
I am too. Not as good at it as Aja, but I am too.
And I lead groups. I do a lot of things in the community, but I'm not that kind of person. I don't go out telling people, you're going to go to hell and all of that stuff. Like, that's not me, because I strongly believe that everyone matters. Yeah. Right. Because God created us all equally. And we all matter, and we all have a story, and we are going to use our story to help somebody else. Yeah. So it's always, I'm always encouraging people to share their stories. It's so important, right? And you were talking about, it gets lost when it gets up the chain or whatever. And that's because I think personally, a lot of people don't have the kind of conversations that we are sitting here and having, so we could have those conversations. We could share the story. He knows my story. I know his story. You know what I'm saying? So we could all do that. And then that way I could sit there and be like, oh, Mark? Oh, yeah, no, he's cool. Yeah. But we don't get to hear that. And then everything else gets taken out of context.
And it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. Like, there's times I've had to tell my white friends, like, okay, I love you, but that was like real racist. Like, you can't say that. You can't do that. Well, why? We have a conversation, we can move on to something else, and but you have to be willing to have.
Have any of us done that yet in the past hour and a half?
But you have to be willing to have that conversation. 100%
it was going to be one of these two.
Part 5, Ajay.
You have to be willing to have it and willing to talk.
In order to grow, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
It's like going to the gym.
And say that you're wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Going to the gym sucks. You're sore. It hurts. You're stretched. You're pushed beyond your boundaries. Yeah. But that's the only way to get better.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to unpack the 2 minutes that you were talking about, in my opinion.
Right.
So to give you a framework, I'm from the South. The town that I grew up in, I was just there last week. Up until I was maybe 16, I don't remember seeing it after that. I actually looked for it while I was down there. On the side of the movie theater in our town, there was a sign that said,
"Can I show Jack where the bathroom is?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. There was a sign that said "Colored entrance in the rear."
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't used. That wasn't implemented up until 1998, but they never took the sign down.
Yeah.
That's you seen the movie The Help?
Mm-hmm.
That's the world I grew up in. So that's the start of my framework. Moved to Europe when I was 9. I was exposed to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different viewpoints. So had a lot of growing to do, did a lot of growing. I, over the years have voted for Republicans. I have voted for independents. I've voted for Democrats. I am at this point in my life, I have been both because I wanted to vote in primaries. I'm at this point in my life.
Isn't that terrible though? I think you should. I think
open primaries.
Open
primaries.
primary, 100%.
Yeah.
Open primary.
So for me now at this point, I don't see this changing anytime in the near future. I'm a true independent. I'm a registered independent. I'm a true independent. I have a lot of disdain for both parties. More for the Democrats right now, simply because we are in a Democrat-controlled city, county, state, federal. And I just, as a general rule, think that government isn't very efficient. I think the private sector is much better at getting things done. All that being said, I just want to unpack real quick what you're saying about Republicans versus Democrats when it comes to race and LGBTQ. The Q of the LGBTQ, the Republicans are doing terrible at right now. They need to catch up. Like, now, I don't agree with everything, but they're in a bad place.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go back to the origins of what we now kind of know as the Democrat-Republican Party. It was around the Civil War. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Republican Party came about as the Free the Slaves Party. I mean, that's just what it was. Lincoln was the first president under that party, and historically it has always been that way. You go through the South, you go through the history of the Civil Rights Movement and all those things that happened in the South in the early 1900s leading up to the Civil Rights Movement. It was always the Democratic Party that were flying the Confederate flag. And these people that say the Confederate flag, the stars and bars, the whatever you want to call it, the Virginia battle flag, is about history, are idiots, and they need to study history. Let's just get that on the table right away. But it was always the Democratic Party. The first guy that really changed that in the Democratic Party and really started to change that narrative was Kennedy. Mm-hmm. He was the first guy that came in and, he wasn't anywhere. I mean, nowadays, if he came out and said what he said back then, they'd be like, you are worse than Trump.
Right.
But he was the first guy that really started pushing it. And then LBJ, a Texas Democrat, as racist as they come, was like, we'll go ahead and do it. And then this is an actual quote, not 100%, pretty close. But if we give them some scraps off the table and the right to vote, they'll vote for us for 200 years. And it was like, what a racist, horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
And you look throughout history and it was always, the Republican Party was always the party of freedom, XYZ. And then somehow in there, something got weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we are. And now, we look at, the modern version of that, which is the LGBTQ movement. And I know you're saying like, Republicans are like, oh, these people shouldn't be allowed to get married. There's a few that are saying that, but for the most part, that narrative stopped right around the time that Joe Biden was still saying on the news, I don't think gay people should be allowed to get married. And this is what's so difficult for me and why at this point in my life, I'm like, you know what? I'm a true independent because I see one side saying, these people are terrible, what they think is horrible. Well, this side over here is racist and homophobic. No, both sides are both of those things. And I just can't. It's what's so frustrating for me because like most of my friends are on both sides of the aisle. I have some on the extreme, some in the middle. And the one thing that frustrates people to no end is like, oh, well, if you're a Republican, then you're racist. That's insane.
That was said to me outside that interview on election day.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I said, if you want to cement my vote, call me that. Because everything that you know about me is not that.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, and it's just so frustrating because, and this is why I wanted to have you on because I'm like, help me understand. I'm so confused, and I'm like, there must be something that I'm missing because I saw all the crazy stuff that Trump said, and I'm like, this guy is an idiot. Like, turn off the Twitter, shut up, let your brain go quicker than your mouth, not the other way around.
Right.
But then I saw the results, and I'm like, but the country's in a good spot. Black unemployment's at an all-time low. Crime reform, money going to HBCUs, and I see the history of what Biden's done, and I'm like, he's done nothing but hurt the black community. I don't understand what's happening.
Well, and I think so. What I was going to add to that before was,
sorry to interrupt you. We're men.
Our whole primary had so many people, right?
Tulsi Gabbard was the best of them.
I will say that I'm going to speak for liberals. Nobody wanted Joe Biden as far as when we started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when the whole thing kind of
weekend
started.
at Bernie's.
It wasn't that people were rallied behind him. People,
was it just that they were anti-Trump? Just get him out no matter what?
I think what it was at first people definitely wanted anyone else, know, and we had a lot of options. I think we had a lot of good options on both primary sides.
Who did you think was good?
They would have all lost against Trump.
Well, and that that's the thing. That is what people's mindset was legitimately was like, I could like Beto O'Rourke and think he's great and agree with his policies the most, but he's going to lose
So
against
you
Trump.
do want to take our guns away.
So like, but I was just using that as an example. I was just using that example.
There's no freebies in here, Amber.
And I think that had a lot to do with it. So as it dwindled down, people really were like, okay, well, we need to rally as a party and get behind somebody. But even if you look at people, you know, who Republicans hate the squad, none of them wanted Joe Biden at all. And I think that they really spoke to a lot of other, what people call progressives or liberals, you know, younger Democrats and stuff. Nobody really wanted him to do it. And then when it looked like this is the only person who's going to be able to beat Trump and
I still don't think he was the only person.
What is it? You know, I think that people who have been there for a long time, they wanted him, you know.
No, I think he was the only one because I mean they did a poll.
Bernie could have beat him.
No, they
I
did
don't
a
think
poll.
so. I don't
I
think
think
so.
Bernie. I think Bernie could have beat him the first time and the second
I
time.
think if the Democratic Party did not screw Hillary and the Democratic Party did not screw Bernie could have beat Trump the first time.
Without a doubt.
The first time, but not
without
the
a doubt.
That's the establishment.
Well,
screwing with Bernie.
and the establishment, I believe, wanted Joe Biden, you know. But I think that the rest
Did they want him? Do you think?
I think the establishment did, because I hear people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I don't hear liberals. They're silent." I said, "Yeah, he's not our god. Like, we're gonna criticize him. I don't, you know, on liberal Twitter or whatever, or Black Twitter. Like, people are going in, you know,
but they're
all
not
the time
at him for things that he actually did. Like, they're just criticizing these stupid things. Like Afghanistan, it should have been a 5-alarm fire for everybody to criticize him.
I think they did. Like,
not to the degree that it was
the young Turks. Like, I don't know if you guys watch them. TYT.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah,
they criticize him.
They criticized Obama, and that's what I'm saying. That I think what's missing is people don't realize, like, we're not all just blindly following somebody. And I think in this situation, people thought that this was going to be the best thing and tried to rally and kind of get behind somebody. And I genuinely believe that is why he won. And I think that if people would have truly voted how they really felt, it probably would have been different, because I think people would have voted for other people. Yeah. But the way our system is set up, it you know, with the closed primaries here, so you have to vote in your party.
It's almost seemed like it's a foregone conclusion when they do it that way.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. And so even if you didn't necessarily want Joe Biden, you felt like, okay, well, if I want a Democrat, this, like, what other options are there? Because my vote's kind of going to, people think, you know, my vote's going to be thrown away if I vote for,
it's like a Republican voting
Tulsi Gabbard, you know, people would say, well,
I had to change from independent to Democrat so I could help Jess.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started getting all these text messages from the Democrats. And the last time I told them, I said, "Stop calling me. I'm not a Democrat."
I've been on both sides. I used to be a Democrat. I used to be a Republican.
And I'm still getting the text messages.
It's unbelievable.
Forever.
And I keep telling them, I'm not a Democrat. Stop calling me.
I still get them from Virginia.
It's recruitment. I get them from LA and Florida. So I get like both barrels of both parties, which is really insane.
So, Amber, who would you have, who did or who would you have voted for in the primary?
Not who
Who do you think would have done the best?
Who did you like? It doesn't have to be a specific person.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely liked Bernie Sanders. Like, genuinely
like more than Tulsi or any of the the
I did. I liked Tulsi. I liked.
She crushed Kamala. That ruined Kamala's chances. Entirely in that debate.
Had she been, you know, the vice president, I would have voted for that.
Who,
ticket.
Tulsi?
Yeah.
Oh,
I would have voted that ticket. Crazy, right?
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
No, I liked. Yeah, I think those were probably my top two.
Bernie and Tulsi?
Yeah.
They could beat Trump.
And then I did like Mayor Pete. I thought that if
Buttigieg?
I feel like if he had more,
I did too.
So did Iowa.
I honestly think if he had more, like now, you know, coming up, I think he would do better because he's been around longer, got, you know, did some things or whatever. I feel like Bernie should take somebody under his wing and kind of like have a little Padawan and kind of do that to mentor somebody, because at the end of the day, the people we have in there right now are too old. Yes. And I read something that said that I don't know if you know who Cori Bush is, but they were saying that she's the only person in Congress who's like been in poverty this century. And obviously that was like an exaggeration, but But it's true. Like
The
Hillary
point is
Clinton, the
there.
last time she was poor, none of
Was
us were alive.
1982.
Like, you know, like most of these people,
Yeah.
I think was
Basically.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, because Bill was the governor, and then
She
he
was
went-
never really poor.
She wasn't.
No.
She wasn't.
No,
I mean,
she went to an Ivy League
It's
school.
that lace
Yeah.
mill money, bro.
So, but like, I think
grandpa's
that
lace
if we,
mill.
she was the only, you know, people were saying that she's the most recent politician who has experienced what we've all
Cory Bush.
experienced. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest of them have been in there for so long.
Yeah.
They're
Like
fat.
they don't
Term limit is
remember
so- yeah.
what it was like to struggle and be trying to make it on $7 a week,
Right.
regardless of whatever
No,
side
they're
you're on.
so
Yeah.
far out
and
of reality.
and it's like we have Joe Biden. To me, is too old. Donald
but-
Trump in
So-
4 years
but
is going to be too
there's
old.
that
Hillary
one-
Clinton.
Hold on.
There's that one Facebook thing where it says, you know, adults at a certain age, you know, you got to put them in homes. Blah,
Oh,
blah,
yeah.
blah, blah. And now
Yeah.
here are the people running to, you know, trying to run our country.
And I'm not saying that
That's
as
so
like
wrong.
being
No.
ageist. I'm saying that
But-
in the median in age, I think in the
Yeah.
US is like 40
So
something.
so
And we have like we don't really
It's
have
like
politicians
39,
that are
40,
that
and
are
our
in their
politicians-
40s.
There's a reason the retirement age is 65.
Yeah. There's
Faculties, physically, mentally,
Everything.
you
No,
it's
start
not.
to go
That's
downhill.
not why.
Are you guys serious?
What?
Well, I was just like 1,000. But
No,
whatever.
no.
Yeah, you'll be
That's not
there
what he's
soon.
talking
No,
about.
no, you
He's not
can't-
talking about that. Yeah.
You
Go school him.
You can't say that though.
Yes, I can.
You should.
You start to shut down.
Shouldn't. Yeah.
You physically start to go downhill
should-
as you get older.
No,
yes,
they,
that's
they
not
moved it. They
Yes.
moved that age.
what.
100%.
Yeah, they
Oh,
moved the age.
67.
No, you
Yeah,
can.
but they
you
moved
can
the
still
age
be,
back.
You can
I
still
think they
be-
moved the age back.
But what I'm
You
saying
can still
is,
be 80 and function. No,
Well,
you can't say
yes.
that. You can't say that.
oh
So-
my God,
but
here
so,
we go.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Am I being
So-
ageist?
So you were-
Listen.
So you were talking about Cory Bush.
You're telling me as you get older, your body doesn't break
you guys are
down.
still fucking doing this.
As you get older, your body doesn't break down. Is that what you're seriously trying to tell me?
No, I'm not saying it does.
The
But
war
it
the battle
doesn't-
you guys picked,
expires
But
at
it doesn't
30.
mean you can't function.
You're
Well, yeah, you
absolutely
can.
right.
You can absolutely function, but can you genuinely, honestly look at Joe Biden and be like, he's still at 100%?
No.
No way.
Yeah.
No, he's weakened at Bernie's.
Yeah. Can you honestly, genuinely look at Donald Trump playing golf and be like, he's still at 100%?
No.
No,
No.
He's got goofy pants and a
you
fat
told-
ass.
you-
Yeah. No.
Little
No, now you're taking it somewhere else. But
Listen,
anyway,
I'm all
but
for
I
wanting
wanted-
to be
hold on.
kind and all those things, but you got to be honest.
I wanted. So you brought up Cory Bush, and you said that Cory Bush was the only person in Congress.
that's what like the post said.
Okay.
about it. Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if that's
yeah.
true, but if it is,
I felt like it's probably a little over exaggerated, but I think
Maybe.
the point
The
was,
principle being, the point trying to
so,
make, yeah.
So if using that as the barometer for relating to the populace, in other words, relating to your fellow countrymen, why don't because the way I look at it is that most intelligent people and most compassionate people don't run for office because they realize it's like jumping into a pool of piranhas. Like, why would I do that? That's
Yeah.
insane. I'm better off in the private sector, and that
Right.
way I can help, right? But none of them inspire nobody comes out to inspire somebody who's really like a genuine humanist in any party. And actually go it maybe on the state level or the local level that
local
happens.
level definitely.
Buttigieg came out of nowhere. I don't know what his background is besides, but he was the mayor of a very big town.
Yeah. I believe he's a pilot, right? Air
He was,
Force or-
he was Ranger SEALs. He was Special Forces.
really?
Was he?
Really?
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
That's skinny. That's
Googling
skinny,
it right now.
That's skinny man.
Duck, go. Duck, go.
That's skinny man.
So, but why is it that I don't understand why people don't get that, where the people that represent them aren't representative of the people.
Yeah.
And I don't care who it is.
I don't. It's hard to get in. To like get in the game. You know what I
Because
mean?
because
It is.
money.
It is.
It is. It is so hard, and that is going to be your biggest issue. And I'm sure you've seen it with just trying to do local campaigns and stuff. You need money, and then when you don't have money,
did he do local campaigns?
You're like you have to think about your commercials, your flyers, the
Oh, it's
things
a
that
lot.
you're leaving
I
at
mean,
people's
on
doors,
average,
leaflets.
You're
and-
talking on average for anything, you're talking 20,000, 30,000.
yeah.
Mayor's race. I mean, it went from a $40,000 thing to like 165. And I'm not even talking Page's election.
Most races.
Yeah.
Political races.
Yeah.
Most races, they try to predict
Yeah.
the winner by the amount of money raised.
Yes.
Right.
And that is the factor. That should not be the factor that we hold this to.
No,
this should not.
It should
be
never
the will
be
of
the people.
But that's why.
But
And those
my
people
point
never
is-
make it on to.
We-
Remember how
we have
when
to
the
stop-
primary, it was like on the Republican side where
This
they
is
had that.
2015.
Yeah, they had that
yeah.
cutoff
Yeah.
to where it was like
That was
you-
dumb.
Yeah, right. And it was
what
like,
was
well,
it?
why don't we just have everybody on here? Because it was some ridiculous cutoff
Yes,
that they said didn't have to do with
I will
money,
tell
but
you
at
why.
the end of
It
the
had
day,
everything to
it
do with
came
money,
down to
yeah.
basically how much people
You
were
should have, like,
spending
I
Tuesday.
went.
on
I
their.
went and watched. I went and
Oh,
watched.
yeah,
I
yeah.
went and watched Trump's primary debates. Right.
Yeah.
And there was one debate where he said, "This room is full of lobbyists and people who."
Yeah.
And he, whether or not people like Trump, whether or not they like his rhetoric, he's almost holding a mirror. When I hated Trump and I knew people supported him, they're like, "What do you think?" All I could say was he's going to show us where there's leaks in the dam.
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
Wow.
And what I started to realize is he was holding up the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you go watch, it's so frustrating to me. I used to listen to NPR, and they had this rich white parents or something. It was a podcast. It was about like the schools in New York City and how like the rich white parents were coming in and trying to change the schools.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, like we need French classes, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why do we need French classes
Yeah.
here? And they somehow got the French consulate to have a fundraiser for School 68 or whatever in Brooklyn.
Yes, whatever. Yeah.
And the reporter went there and she was interviewing people. And they had this one woman who was she was definitely hoity, very like
Waspy.
very waspy, right? And she's talking to these parents who are in the PTA who she's assuming are affluent and wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
and they're minorities. And she's going, "Have you ever been to France?" And the woman's like, she was a janitor.
Yeah.
She goes, "No, I've never been to." And this woman goes off, "You have to go. It's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
It's this. It's
Yeah.
that." Right. But what I started to realize is her cadence is Trump. The way she speaks, there's something about the locker room at the golf course
Right.
that lets you talk that way. And it's not. It's like pig Latin for rich
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's what I started to notice. Where I'm like, okay, I have to listen to these guys' words differently because I've never had $1 billion. I don't know
It's
how
the
$1 billion people
perspective.
talk to each other.
Yeah, your
You have to
perspective
look at the
is going to be completely different than somebody else's.
But when he started being, I think he's one of the most honest presidents. As at least is holding the mirror up,
Like says some shit.
calling out the establishment, calling out all
on
that shit.
fine, but he also just kind of would make stuff up.
Yeah, he just said
Yeah.
He
stuff.
would just,
Yeah.
and there was no backlash.
So
to it
understand that.
sometimes.
I think that's why I agree with you that he's like
Yes!
the most honest because
because he doesn't know
said-
how to say other than just
Right.
what
No,
is
what
thinking.
is- what-
Let him
Exactly.
go because Aja can be more honest than I am.
No, exactly.
He's the Trump of our group.
Exactly what you said. Because he just says the things that he
has no filter.
Yeah.
No, this is how I think. I'm gonna say
and
this.
people liked that.
Yeah.
People genuinely
It's-
liked that, but at the same time, but then you mix in, he would just say stuff,
Yeah.
and some of the stuff wasn't true. And so to filter
So
that
he's no
out,
different than any other politician.
No, but like I think he had more of like this cult following than other politicians had. I think other people were
totally.
willing to more say, I like this person, but I maybe don't agree with this or that. Like you arguing
there's
with
a
somebody
big-
with a lot of Trump supporters, sometimes
Right.
it's like
There's a big factor.
This is literally not true.
There's a big factor that people forget. The big factor is the housing crash of 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kids of those parents are pissed at the system.
Well, that's why.
And that's the elites. It's
But-
like Obama. It's like
Yeah,
all those
right.
people.
No,
They are
but
like,
that
you
wasn't-
allowed this
but
to
that
happen.
wasn't Obama.
I understand
wasn't
that.
at all.
We
That
understand
wasn't-
that, but then
that wasn't Obama
this
at
is
all.
part of the thing
I
where
understand
people
it.
don't
It
know
perpetuated it. You
that
bailed out the banks.
that it's not
Yeah.
true.
You know,
I'll be.
Like,
This
best of a
is
bad
my thought though.
situation.
This is my thought. Talk about honesty, right? Everybody being honest. Trump being honest. This is my thought, right? Trump grew to have a following and big following, and look, I could be wrong. Could be totally wrong.
don't be afraid to say your words.
Totally wrong, but he grew to have that following because, my thought, I personally think there was.
I feel like this is about to be bad
there
because
was-
he's prefaced
there was
this
a
a
bunch.
lot.
Let him go.
There was a bunch of white people that did not like Obama being president.
Racism.
I'm being serious.
Oh, there has
And
to be.
I think that is one of the things that sparked this whole thing. So
I agree with you 100%.
You have this guy who is so intelligent, smart, doesn't act black, like whatever, and you have all these things.
Did you just say smart doesn't act black?
Yes, I know.
I think there was a comma there.
No,
I think there was a comma.
There should have been a mile.
And so like you have that, and America did not understand what to do with this guy, right? Now post him, this guy comes and speaks a different language, and America is like, you know what, we're gonna stick it up to this guy because we like what this guy is saying. He sounds more like us now,
and that's what it was.
The true America, true America started coming out, and that is my perspective. Like, look, I voted for the guy. I loved the guy the first time. The second time, like when he started spitting out stuff, I'm like, who are your handlers?
Right.
That was
Are you
the
talking
first
about
question.
Trump or Obama?
Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
who
I don't
are
think
you?
he has handlers.
I was like, who are your
No,
handlers?
I don't
Because
think
some
he
of the
does.
things, like when
It
you
just
were
got weird.
when you were talking about, like you said the Charlottesville, right? And you said 90 seconds. He said there's 90 seconds. If he had proper handlers, he would not be saying that. Because you being a media person for politicians, creating like videos and stuff like that, you understand that the nuances is what sells, not the good stuff that you say, right? So
Sure.
when you are crafting your message, you need to find a way to craft it where you take out all the other stuff, unless you wanted that in, because that is what is going to be on.
Okay, but
on-
this
on
is where I go
repeat.
back to my confusion and help me understand this. The minority votes for Donald Trump in this second presidential election, the one last year, was higher than any other minority vote ever. He took more minority votes away from the Democratic Party than any Republican ever since like Lincoln.
And he got 10 million more votes than he did the first time.
Yeah.
How
Just
did that
never
happen?
happened in the history of America?
And this is what again, I don't know if I'm wrong. I'm just observing. Like, I genuinely have just loved over the past 10 years being an observer of this. And I'm genuinely confused because I hear what he's saying and I'm like,
But I think you
don't
can't
like it.
put all minorities in the same boat, and especially
Okay,
people.
no, but,
I think especially
the highest
people who
black
are-
vote.
But I think
individually, it was all higher.
But do you have to separate that? I think between African Americans and maybe immigrant like people who came in who identify as black, and because I think there would be.
Black?
I mean, my cousins were born in South Africa.
Look, if that's the only option that you have on something, then you're checking whatever box is closest.
I mean,
but I think that you have to kind of separate that, because say like Cuban Americans voted very conservative, very Republican.
Well, it's their religious
Right,
background.
but then you have Black Americans who, for the most part, vote very liberal, very Democratic. So I think
but
you kind of
Trump
have
got the highest uptick of traditional black liberal voting Democratic votes of any Republican ever.
Here's another thing, though,
and that's what I can't wrap my head around. What happened?
Here's another thing, and that's also another theory that I have. It could be totally wrong again.
Yeah,
but
I would use the word hypothesis.
My daughter said hypothesis today. In
She
did? School.
Yeah.
Today.
Smart.
She
Usually
was
when I
learning
used
the
to say it,
scientific
so
method.
let me-
I used to say it and I thought it was a waterborne mammal.
Let me hypothesize. So here's another thing, right? So I'm thinking some of the things that he did. Helped in that. And you looking at people like what pre 2008, whatever, 2016.
Yeah.
Nobody ever heard of Candace Owens.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right? Nobody ever heard of Candace Owens. So now you have a black person speaking the Republican lingo. Okay?
Yeah.
Has a lot of followers.
Yeah.
So that helped. You have Kanye West
Yeah.
starting to align.
Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
No, I think Steve Harvey was pro.
No, I don't think. Yeah.
I just like Steve Harvey.
No.
I think
so you have Kanye.
I think he's one of the smartest.
You have Kanye.
most insightful
Yeah.
people in America right now.
I don't think
Steve
Kanye's
Harvey,
out of
not
his
really.
mind, by the way.
But you have Kanye, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
not it wasn't just him. Ice Cube
Yeah.
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 Mhm, you did.
actually took and they created the what was the thing they created?
The group that met with him.
No, it's called it's called something for it. The project is something for
Lil Wayne,
Oh, yeah,
Kodak
Lil Wayne.
Black.
Yeah. So you had all these people. It was called something Project for Black America or something. What was it?
The name was
Man, I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah.
But it was a thing.
But how does that happen?
How
does an uptick in racism, and a lot of people have said the most racist president we've had since way back when, get so much buy-in from the black community?
In other words, hold on. In other words, what he's saying is that the data does not support the hypothesis.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand.
But the majority of black people didn't vote for Donald Trump.
The majority didn't, but more voted for Trump than ever before.
So he had an uptick, but it wasn't a huge.
It had to do with all these other guys coming in, right?
Yeah.
It had to do with all these other guys coming in to help. There was something else I was gonna say. Oh man!
But why would all of those people go against their community, their families, or whatever?
The Cuban.
But I'm saying specifically like the black artists and people that we just named. Like, why?
Oh, so another thing was a lot of black people had issues with Obama because a lot of them said he didn't do anything for the black community.
That's right.
Travis said that when he was here a little while ago.
So a lot of them said he didn't do anything for the black community. I kind of disagree. The reason I disagree, not that he didn't, like he did something for the black community. I'm like, this is America. You think they're gonna let the black guy do something for black people?
That's literally how I feel about it too. And I'm like, do people not understand what? Like, remember, he was the first sitting president to go into like a federal penitentiary and like a bunch of things. Like,
I thought you meant like Obama got arrested. I'm like,
no.
Who
like went in and toured it and met with inmates and different things, But some of the stuff, I'm like, what did y'all think he was?
I said
he mentioned black, and people were like,
I said he will be roasted in America.
Yeah,
being the first black person, he will be roasted if he did some of the other things. Right. Coming from a
remember
white
when he said Trayvon Martin could be my son? And people lost their mind. And I'm like, Trayvon Martin could be my son.
He was roasted.
He could be your son.
Well, first of all, if you had him at 8, Amber.
But even.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. You 24 again this year?
Wait, you remember?
That was beautiful.
You remember the beer gate? Was it beer gate?
Yeah.
The beer gate with the Harvard professor and the white cop. And what he said, he would have been roasted. So like, I understand some of my black friends, saying he didn't really do much, right? So I think all of that, and then now this white person comes in, gives a little bit to historical black college, passes a bill that was already there, right? Brought it to the forefront. So it's like, he's
black
doing something.
Unemployment was already going
down.
It
all
was
these
trending
things, right?
down.
But he did stuff. So now they look at it, they see it, and they're like, so he's doing something for us. So then you get the Ice Cubes, the Candace Owens, all these guys come out and say, look at all the things that he's doing, right? And
they didn't necessarily said that. Candace Owens maybe, but apolitically, Ice Cube was like, hey man, I made the call. He was the only one that responded.
Right.
Yeah, but in his I think when you listen to his whole speech and all the things
but his
that he's
thing,
done,
all he wants to do is help people.
He wanted,
he's like, if the president of the United States is Donald Trump and he's going to ask and he's going to offer to help me, I'm an idiot to not do that.
What was the name? Yeah. It was called something, the Project for Black America, or the
contract.
The contract.
Was it the Platinum Plan? Was it there something the Platinum Plan?
No, you're thinking American Express, Alex. Stop being Greek.
It's at the Diamond Club.
We should go, Amber. We should go.
So to answer your question,
I've been to the Diamond Club.
Great.
So to answer your question, I think those were the things that led up to that.
I think all these things. All these things are.
There wasn't one thing.
Yeah, it's never just one thing, right? I think a lot of the times it's. The problem is we're letting organizations give us information that is incorrect.
Yes.
And that is, I'm sorry, the mainstream media.
Completely.
It has an agenda. It's not going to be honest with us. It's not going to tell the truth because it does.
Well, and that's your CNNs and your Foxes.
I understand.
I mean, it's both sides.
But understand this. The whole world needs to understand this. What is the motivation of these companies? To make money.
Money, yeah.
Okay? However it is that you can keep your eyeballs on the screen or on the app or on your phone or whatever, they will do that. They will sow divisiveness. They will sow hate. They will sow rhetoric. The algorithm on Facebook gives you twice as much shit as you hate than stuff that you like. Why? Not for your mental health, but to make sure that you stay engaged on the app.
Well, they're going through right now the whistleblower from Facebook. We're going through that right now.
She's a fraud.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Fraud.
But what she's saying is true. Now,
no, she's not.
You're telling me Facebook doesn't.
I am telling
alter
you that.
Information.
I agree with you, but the intention of what's going to come out of that is
going to be more
censorship.
Control. Yeah, it's going to be more government takeover.
That's and trust me, that's
scary.
She's a fraud.
Well,
do you know who her PR firm is? Jen Psaki's PR firm.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's some shit.
Yes. I don't believe that. For anyone who can't believe that corruption can happen at the federal government, all they have to do is walk out the door in Scranton.
No.
It happens in your hometown all the time. Everybody you talk to can tell you a story about it.
Yes.
But somewhere down where there's a house that is white, it's unfathomable.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, let's talk about, we call this thing What a Week. We talk about what's going on over the past week.
Yeah.
The release of the video footage the other day of a guy walking into the county building with 2 handfuls of ballots and shoving them into a box.
Like that's
during the last election. Like, we act like this is craziness, and I'll be the
illegal.
first, but I'll be the first one to say it. Okay, the same people that are like denouncing the big lie are the same people that for 3.5 years were like Russia was the worst thing ever, and vice versa.
It was a hoax.
We listened for 3 years. You gave it to me over the whole Russia thing.
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey, let's just let it play out.
I thought
see what it is.
Puppet.
Yeah, see what it is. See how it plays out. But the same people that were like Russia, it's like, there might have been some cheating somewhere in this election, are now like, what? That is insane. Yeah, this is the most secure and free election. Really? Because you for 3 years were going on about Russia and vice versa.
It's the hypocrisy.
The same people now that are like, it's insanity. And this is what kills me, is now we literally have a video. Like, if there's anything that's been controversial over the past 5 years, it was the Russia thing, because that was supposed to invalidate Trump. And now it's the voter fraud in this last election, which is supposed to invalidate Biden. And I think there's elements of truth to both. I mean, I don't see any way there's not elements of truth to both. Now, though, we have 3 blocks from here.
But then what happened, like, how do we move on from that, though? Like, I guess my question would be, they did like that recount audit in, what was it, Arizona?
Yeah,
right. And so when they find the results of that, do we then believe the results or we don't believe the results? Like,
what is, and therein lies the problem.
So then it's like,
the results already came out.
Well, no, I know. So then it's like, how do we move forward? Because there's people who are going to see the results and be like, well, the results are fake too.
Right.
And then, so then everything, like,
hold on, give me 1 second. But to go back to what I was saying, you can question, is this a real ballot? Is this real? Blah, blah, blah. Right. You can question that. And we're going to question that because I think they found 70,000 invalid, what they said were 70,000 invalid ballots.
In Maricopa, it was 57.
Okay. But what we have now in Lackawanna County, in Scranton, 4 blocks from here,
live and direct,
in an election that was just a few months ago in May, we have a video of a man getting out of his car, walking into the county government center with 2 handfuls of ballots and putting them in.
And you know what else he had? 0 fucks to give.
But here's the problem. That should be national news.
Oh, of course.
But that should be like there's been accusations from both sides for years on fraud, this, that, the other.
I mean, we had issues with voter booths and stuff in Al Gore and Bush.
Right.
We were literally dealing with this years ago, and it seems like regardless of whatever side you're on, that we are not updated.
No,
and
we have a problem.
We haven't gotten better.
And now we have a video of the problem.
Well, okay, so I am whatever, I'll just come out of the closet. I am all for a full forensic audit of every state of whatever happens, because here's what it does, right? On the grand scheme of things, per state, it's relatively cheap. They spend a lot of money on bullshit that we don't need, right? And stuff that stuff that we don't need. It's like the Independence Day. You really think they spend $800 on a toilet seat?
Yeah.
They don't, right?
No. Right. That's a $20,000 toilet seat.
I'm for a full forensic audit of Pennsylvania, Arizona, Texas, the states Trump won, the states Trump lost, Biden. I don't care, because here's why: if you do it right and you do it with integrity, it will at least shut one side up for good, and the other side can say, okay, let's move forward.
But the thing, I think if you do that, both
It's about
sides
integrity.
have to. I feel like have to be in it together.
Oh yeah, but
like
they're
it
never
has
gonna
to. It
be.
has to kind
Well,
of be something
but
that's
that's
coming
the
from
problem.
both.
That's the
So then
problem.
so then it literally says we got a group of people together. We might not agree or like each other, but we're gonna do this audit.
Yeah.
I'm from this side.
That used to
he's
be
from
how it
that
worked.
side. Right.
Yes, yes.
And then they come. So when the results come out, you can be like, okay, well,
You can't doubt it.
my side was wrong. This person won, and be just very straightforward about it. And like you said, where do we go from here? Because when people don't even believe
No.
the
their
auditors
elections
are the
are real.
right,
Yeah.
and then it's kind of
But-
just like
But that's what they want to. That's what they want to do. Do they want to sow seeds of doubt,
Right.
right? Because remember we've talked about this many times. The politicians are able to sway you left and
Completely.
right because.
It's not the politicians, dude. Who's slinging arrows for them? It's the media.
The media. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the politicians are playing with the media, right?
Yeah.
So it's them. But if they could get you confused,
yeah.
that's how they own you,
Well, they got me.
right? If they could get you confused, and
Here's-
that
here's-
whole goal is
No matter
to do
what,
that.
no matter what happens, right? If there's any doubt about anything that happens, right? The moment somebody, I use this analogy now, right? If you get your credit card bill and you see a weird hotel payment on there that you didn't use, and you have a joint credit card with your wife,
I knew you took Stormy Daniels out.
Yeah.
I don't know why he did that with her, but okay. You know,
Everything about that.
Wait, I don't know why everybody's
Yeah.
so pissed off about Trump doing that. Did you see all the girls that Bill Clinton did?
First of all,
Okay. So anyways,
Great show.
so going back to that analogy,
Great
if I looked at my credit card statement or my bank statement and I saw a weird like red roof in charge, right? And I walked over to my wife and I said, "Do you know anything about this?" If she says, "Don't look at it," I'm gonna
Yes.
whatever divorce
Right.
court I'm
You're
in,
definitely
I'm
gonna
gonna
look
be
at
good. If she says, "Yeah, it's when I went with Melanie right there. If you want
Right.
to call her,"
you
right?
ignore it.
And she tells you what it is, I totally okay.
Yeah.
The moment your wife or your husband or your spouse or whoever says, "Yeah, don't look at that,"
You're gonna look.
you
at
gotta look at
every
it.
Other
And that's
thing.
what all these states and what Maricopa County
or when they
did.
say, I might have gone to the Red Roof Inn, but I came home to you, so it's all okay in the end.
But
Which is what
That's
Jerry
where we're at
Notarianni
right now.
did
But with
with that video.
Yes.
That's
Correct.
exactly what he
Yes.
did.
So my
The ballots might be fake, but they were counted legally. That was his
Yes.
explanation.
Yeah.
which makes zero sense.
Cheers.
So
Cheers, Jerry.
I don't think and look, for people like me who say something like that, I'm called an insurrectionist.
yeah.
I'm like to say, look, if they're completely against us looking at a thing, we should look at it even harder.
Yeah.
But you're sitting here having a reasonable conversation, you know, and
I
there's
don't-
there's other
First of all,
people
don't you give him credit
There
for
are
that.
other-
Don't you put that on him. He's unreasonable.
I am.
But that's the thing, though. Like
We.
the last elections, the Democrats were calling,
Right.
yes.
and and the Republicans was like, "Shut up."
Well, because
You
you're
know
against
what
it
I'm
if
saying?
it's your side that
But
won.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
So the
Yeah.
Republicans
Both
are
sides.
saying,
Right.
"Shut up."
Check the videotape.
This time the Republicans are calling it. The Democrats are saying, "Shut up." So when does it stop?
Right.
Here's the thing.
And do
There
we
was-
go down ballot though? Because to me,
That's what's
to
scary.
me,
That's
is my
scary.
whole thing is like
Mhm.
if like people are saying, okay, well, Joe Biden allegedly lost the election. So then I'm like, okay, well, what about all the other Republicans on a
Right.
ticket who won
The rural
in other places?
offices
And some of them
yeah.
won by a lot.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't have an opponent and just won. You know, some won by a landslide. So then, is that fake too?
To me-
like, is all of it fake,
Yes.
or just this
Oh,
one?
You
like,
go through all of it.
You have to.
You go
where
through all of
we,
it.
you
You shake
know,
the etch a
like-
sketch. You
Well,
go through all of it.
Here's,
We
here's,
have given them too
here's the
much
thing, though.
power.
here's there's this I don't know his name, but this African he's a dictator, by the way, but I forget his name, and he
His
was
name is Chitala.
he probably
Son of a child.
no,
What are you
I know.
about?
I
We
just
will
Did you
not
not know a
sell-
character?
No,
from
we
it?
will not sell
no,
his
I
name.
knew.
He's from your country of Africa. How did you
I
not
knew.
know
I
that?
was just
Your continent.
no, I was just kidding.
We're all going to hell.
But the guy, he said,
Gotta have
something,
fun.
right?
You gotta
He-
be able to poke fun.
He said something, and it was very interesting. He said, like in African countries, the incumbent is the one that rigs elections.
I believe that.
Is not
So hold
is-
on to power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this whole thing, he was talking about it after the elections was, Trump lost the elections, and he was laughing at Trump. I mean, and this guy sounds almost like Trump.
He didn't know how to cheat.
He sounds, and that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
He goes, listen, you don't come to my country, like, and tell me that I'm the ruling the government, and I'm crying foul because I lost the elections. Because you
shouldn't lose if you're the incumbent.
Exactly the point.
Yeah, but what he's basically saying is this is a crime, and it's a crime if you didn't commit a crime.
So then
that's why you lost.
So then it means Trump is so stupid for losing.
I don't think so.
Oh,
look. Here's what I do know. Nobody knows, and the only way that you're really going to know is to look into it.
And they have looked.
They haven't.
They have looked into.
They haven't.
This
I wish
is not
they
me.
did.
No, they have looked. It's like this is not getting into like who is right, who is
Alex
wrong.
is leaving.
Yeah. This is not getting into like who is right, who is wrong.
See, man, what are you hopping on a trolley?
But
over
a lot
to
of the
Greece?
states, a lot of the states have looked like even in Arizona, the results that came out, like it was clean elections. Yes, there was fraud. There was fraud in certain places. You are not going to have extremely free elections. There are people that are going to try.
So you think
it's
just an impossible?
It's impossible. Like, look, I'm just talking about
fair
but
elections.
I think also, I think I can speak to like my experience with it. So, like I said, I'm from Goldsboro, and we did
There's a great truck stop.
There's only 65 people there.
There is
Election
it's
75 people vote.
But I did a Biden parade through the town and stuff.
Did anybody show up?
Yes, we had more people than the Trump parade. But honestly, like, it's where I'm from. Like, people are not, like, people came out with their flags and waved at me, hey, I'll see you at the Legion later,
Yeah.
So it was fine. But there was so many people who literally came to me and my mom, because my mom lives in town, and she put out her Biden sign. And she had called me 4 or 5 times telling me, Amber, this neighbor walked up, hugged me, and said, I don't have the balls to put a sign in my yard because, Wayne County is very is Trump country, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of us, and people would literally come up to her and tell her that they were scared. When I had the parade, I have messages from people in my town saying, I'm too scared to come to the parade because I don't want somebody to like do something to me or hurt me or whatever, but I support Joe Biden, but I don't want to come out and say that, or I don't want to drive in a parade, or I don't want to put signs. And I can't speak for the whole country or whatever, but I can know for my little neck of the woods, there was a good amount of people that voted for Joe Biden that people would have never thought did.
I agree with that.
And I think that's what happened. Like you said, there's always going to be, fraud here, fraud there, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think that people just aren't realizing that a lot of people still keep it secret who they vote for and what they say. And people lie.
Yeah.
And in certain situations, I've heard people say, oh, yeah, I voted for Trump to this group, and then be somewhere else. And, oh, I voted for Biden. Or like I said, people not admitting or being public about it. And I think that people are kind of missing. And that's what we missed when Trump won the first time, is a lot of people didn't come out and say they were supporting him, but they were, and they voted for him, and he won
in secret.
Yeah, and they voted for him, and he won overwhelmingly. And I think the second time it was kind of the reverse.
Do you honestly think that people were more ashamed or hidden to vote for Biden than Trump? You honestly think that people were? I mean, because to say I'm voting for Joe Biden is pretty easy. No. Joe Biden is.
I think it depends on where you live, though.
I think the tension in the country at that time.
I think
there was so much tension in that country.
Yeah.
That people wanted to be quiet. Like, church. There's this girl at church that would always talk like some crazy stuff, and she was basically,
dude.
Basically, she was
like, what was she saying?
I don't want to say some of it, but it was like, honestly,
whisper it.
I could
into the microphone.
I could not even believe. I mean,
like what she was saying, like pro-Trump, pro-Biden, like crazy off the wall.
It was crazy off the wall stuff. Crazy off the wall stuff, right? And like, I always used to ask myself, wait, do we read the same Bible?
Like, what was she saying though? You got to give us something.
Like exorcist shit.
No, I mean, I don't know. Like some of the things that he says. I mean, she says.
Trump says or Biden says or nobody says. No, it's just that she's a crazy person.
Yeah, I mean,
Aja, is it hard to believe that some crazy people can be involved with a group of things?
Yeah, no, it's not hard. But that's what I'm saying.
I'm here for Jesus, and
but
I peel cats.
But that's what I'm saying, that there was. But that's what I'm saying, that there was so much tension in the country.
Well, the division has the divide has just gotten massive.
So people wanted to be secret. People wanted to be secret.
Yeah.
They didn't want to.
I don't talk to people about who I vote for.
Yeah, they didn't want to come out to say. So there was a lot, and that's one of the reasons we had the highest vote turnout in the United States.
Did we?
Ever. Yeah.
That was
the highest
most
ever.
people ever.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people vote in the United States? There's only like 45% or something.
Here's the
in
other.
the United States.
Here's the
and
other.
This time we went past 50.
Here's
right?
the other.
52?
Here's the other crazy math part of that.
Yeah.
Is that no president has ever lost re-election while getting more votes than they did in the first election. Trump got 10 million more.
Listen,
than in the first one.
If you want to talk about
Biden got.
If you want to talk about data behind the last presidential election, it is the most insane. You could not ever predict the numbers that came out.
Right. Yeah.
It was insane.
And I think so many people didn't know. I think people weren't honest. I think people probably didn't know until the last minute. I think there's definitely people who got in the voter booth and were like, all right,
I'm sticking up to this.
Like, I'm going to make my decision, you know? And
I think it's more than that.
I think it was a lot of that.
All right.
The division. We could agree to disagree, but I think
no.
It was just the division. It was just so much that people wanted to keep it secret.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to come out, kind of like in the past where, like, how many
they did.
My
mom worked for Joe Biden, and she made over 400 phone calls. And just the stories that she would tell me, just talking to people, and she worked in Wayne County. So this is a very Trump, country and everything. And the amount of people who kind of were, I wouldn't say ashamed of it, but just not telling anybody. And like, I'm going to vote for him, but I'm not going to say anything for whatever reason. That was so prevalent. And I think that's what people just don't realize. Because even when Trump won, I was like, what? Like, I swear I didn't know any, like, that many people.
It was a weird night.
But I really think that people legitimately kept it to themselves, didn't say nothing.
You're saying when Trump won?
Yeah.
I knew he was going to win.
And went in there and voted for him.
It didn't shock me at all. I knew he was going to win.
Just the rallies?
No, I knew, just because, again, I'm an observer of this. Like, I like to study history. I like to see human nature. If Bernie Sanders had won the Democratic primary, he would have been the president.
I believe that.
I believe that too.
As soon as it was Hillary, game over. It was Trump. And the sentence, the moment that it happened was in one of their debates. And she said,
in jail.
She said, it's a good thing that somebody like you is not in charge of the law in this country. He goes, yeah, because you'd be in jail. That was that was his Bill Clinton playing the saxophone moment right there. Because
a lot of people are tired of the dynasties.
But
and people don't like Hillary.
And people don't like Hillary. And literally, so I like Hillary on one hand. Like, there's part of me that likes her. I think that she's smart and she's calculated.
So was Hitler.
She's been around for a long time. I think she's real polished. And I think as a woman, I know what it feels like for people just to think you're a bitch. Regardless of, like, if you're actually a bitch or not. If you're powerful, you're in a position of power, you're confident in yourself. That's how people take it. And I get that people take her that way. And I also get that people don't like her or think she's friendly. But everyone I know who's met her has said, wow, she's so nice in person. She's funny. But that does not come across at all. Like, when you watch a person like Donald Trump, it comes across like he would just hang out with you. I don't think he actually would, because I think he would think we were all peasants. But it comes across that he would, like, hang out with you and talk shit and, do all that. And Hillary just that's not going to happen. And you had Democrats who hated her, Republicans who hated her.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, she was put up as a nominee. And I remember my mom being just like, I can't stand her. And I know that other people don't like her. Why is she the person? She's going to lose. And I think because she lost is why Democrats rallied so hard behind Joe Biden, because Hillary definitely fractured the party, because people were like, nah, I'm not doing it. Nah,
Yeah,
I'm a Democrat. I don't believe anything these other people are saying, but I cannot, like, people literally thought she was part of the axis of evil, or,
Yeah.
And I think when Joe Biden was up against Trump, it was like, you know what? We can't have the same thing happen. So whether we like him or not, we're going to rally behind him. But it's the part of the establishment putting people forward that people don't genuinely like.
But that's the problem.
Why?
But
and
that's the
people are
problem.
tired of dynasties, and it's and tired of people who have been in a government funded home with help and like chauffeurs and all of these things since what did you say, since 1982? Like people are tired of things like that. People are tired of people not understanding what regular people go through,
which is why I think Trump won.
Yeah,
all of that right there.
But I don't. For you, don't understand. For me, I don't understand when I watch this man on MTV Cribs. Okay,
who,
like
Trump?
Yeah, like when
he was on MTV Cribs.
I think
Can we fucking watch this? Can we find it somewhere?
Either it was Cribs or it was the British
that was
guy.
Lifestyles of the Rich and
was
Famous.
It the Life with Robin Leach?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Donald Trump
with the gold toilet.
On gold.
And so for me, I was like, why do people think that he is not hanging out with me? Like, you know, but people thought that from just the way that he.
But here's an interesting thing. There's a lot of people around here in this area who are very, very wealthy.
Yeah,
and they're involved in construction. When we talk to them, I mean, you and I hang out with some of these people, and it's like this room. There is zero pretension. There is zero.
Yeah.
They are good to their people. They are. Yeah. I think Donald Trump, you know, in some respects, I mean, my family's in the construction business. I get it. You know, like I said, I hated his guts. And then I just started to.
He just doesn't treat people well. And the thing is, I don't know if you know about a lot of what he did in Atlantic City, but before I moved up here, I lived in South Jersey, and people there, regardless of whatever, hate him because of what he did. And he literally would hire contractors, a local contractor in the area in Atlantic City, have them do a job and fire them and say they didn't do the job and never pay them. And then he would go bankrupt and he wouldn't have to pay out his debtors. And there's genuine businesses that went out of business because of his business practices. And he discriminated against housing in New York between his father and then later on him, and some of the things that he said. So those are some of the reasons behind like the history of why people didn't. But for me, when small business owners were like, he's fighting for the little man, I was like, he's saying that he is, but I think that a lot of the stuff that he's done in New Jersey, you know, in Atlanta, like who has a casino that they build in Atlantic City that goes bankrupt? You know, like
I understand what you're saying, but all I can say is as a small business owner, we bought it during the Obama years. We own it now during the Biden years. As a small business owner, life was easier under Trump. Like the tax code.
Right.
It just was. Now, again, it hurts my moral fiber because I'm like, this guy screwed over so many business owners, but I'll take my cut.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and that's the thing that kills me is it's like, because what you're saying is 100% true. And again, I'm going to put on like independent in the middle hat.
What you're saying is 100% true too. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I have friends and stuff who are Trump supporters or Trump voters.
Right.
But they have literally told me he was great for my 401k.
Right.
He was great for my business. And that's why I voted for him. And I appreciate that honesty because it's like, don't get all culty in it and be like, he was the best person. And he did something for you.
Like even like with the 401k, when people say, so even under we don't look at snapshots. And what's his name? Brian. When Brian was here, we were talking about
yeah.
We were talking about, and he basically mentioned that too. It's like snapshots are amazing, right? When you are looking at just a particular phase, it might look great, but when you expand it out, and then you look at patterns, you look at trajectories and stuff like that. Then you start realizing, trends. Trends.
Yeah,
and you start realizing, right. So even under Obama, people don't realize, but before he took over, we had a crash. I mean, we had a crash. Everything was going down before Obama took over. We had a crash,
right?
Big time. And maybe somebody can fact check me on this.
Dan's not here.
I'm not exactly sure, but the Dow Jones, was like 6,000 points, or whatever it was. It was that low.
Yeah, it was low.
When he left office, Dow Jones was like 13,000 plus or more points.
Right.
So it was already going, like a lot of things were going up. Somebody comes in and stirs the ship because it was going up, and he did his thing, and that allowed it to go up. So, but you look at that period and you're like, oh yeah, I did great. But you're not looking at the entire picture, right? And you're not looking at the trend that has been going up and up and up. One of the things that is gonna and is not gonna be put on Trump when that happens, but when there's a downturn, which is about to happen, we're gonna look at whoever that current president is.
You're not gonna look at Trump, right.
But there are a lot of things like
it's happening right now.
You're looking at some of the tax breaks and stuff like that. We now. That tripled the deficit in the country. It tripled the deficit in the country. Now we're going to be paying for it. Inflation is going to be going up.
What do you mean tax breaks?
The tax breaks that he gave to the wealthy. Like,
well, hold on a second though.
Trust me, not a lot of
hypothesis?
No, it's not. This is not a hypothesis. Not
what
a
percentage of rate of tax do you think people in the top 10% are paying? It's significantly higher than the rest of the country.
No. When you look at marginal tax rates and everything, right?
The total.
On paper, on the total. On paper,
I mean the total of taxes. That's what I want to pay attention to. Not
well,
like this.
The top 10% pay 85% of the taxes.
That's what they say. Yeah, but
what do you mean?
No.
Yes, you are beautiful, honey. But
you know what they say.
Let me. No, here's the thing.
Put lipstick on a pig.
No. Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, if you're making $1 billion,
right,
and you even pay,
then you're paying 42%.
You do not pay 40%.
You pay 42%. Yes, you do.
Nope, you do not pay 40%.
Yes, you do.
We could Google
that's
this.
on the IRS website.
No, you do not pay. So business.
Now, after deductions, you might not pay 42%.
Yeah, no business person pays 40%. On paper.
Okay, but that's the law.
No, yeah, on paper.
I love how all the things we can talk about, this is the one. No, this is the one that's going to lead to fist. Amber and I are going to sit over here and I'm going to smell her liquor while you guys go out.
But on paper, yes. On paper, it says this, right?
Yeah.
On paper, it says this. But as a businessman, as a business person, you get to write off a lot of stuff that you could end up your marginal tax rate.
So can you as an individual?
No, not really. But how many individuals know that? Or
how many business owners know that?
Or could hire lawyers and tax accountants that could help them do that, where your marginal tax rate is close to zero.
Is there any individual in the world?
Hold on. That doesn't change your tax rate to zero. Your tax rate is your tax rate into conversation.
Yeah, but when you ask, so like one of the things that the government does, look, I think it's a brilliant idea. I love it. I use it.
Yeah.
This conversation's breaking my brain.
Not a lot of people know that. But the government has something called tax benefit of doing business, right? So you get a tax, you get a tax cut.
I'm aware.
Right? So, but not every individual knows that.
Right.
Right. So like you have an LLC, you could write certain things up, right? If you buy stocks, how many low income person is thinking about, you know what? I'm going to take $10,000 and put it in stock and be able to use that stock to
low income people are typically not paying any tax. That's not a controversial statement.
Not really. They pay taxes.
It's like it's minimal.
The
middle class is saddled with about 15% of it. The top 10% is saddled with like 80% of it.
But you're looking at volume, right? So you're looking at the middle, the low income person paying like let's say
I'm watching this like it's a slow motion car accident.
Paying $5,000, and you're thinking, oh, that's not a lot of money.
Yeah, this is all getting cut out.
I'm going to cut this.
Right, it's not a lot of money for somebody else, but for them,
that's a lot of money.
And they say it's expensive to be poor.
So that's a lot of
money.
money.
No, I'm not saying that like anyway. If you only make $15,000 a year, $1,000 is a lot. I'm saying they're not paying $1,000.
Oh, they pay,
dude. It's not.
They pay with.
Listen,
but we can.
Hey,
hold on. Wait, hold on. We just got the boat out of the water and you put it back in.
What do you mean?
You went back to this. I don't want to talk about this. This is the dumbest goddamn thing I've ever talked about in my life.
This is like a side pot over here.
You guys should talk about this at Panera Bread. Dude, why are you talking? Jesus Christ. Amber's starting to take her clothes off. She's so bored.
Let's get back to talking about racism.
Okay, I want to end this on
because we ruined it.
Something a bit controversial.
Oh, good. Everything else we've said has been like pretty mainstream. Let's get controversial.
So when we talk about like who has done what for people and who has done the better thing for people, how does it square with you that as a person of color, what's happening in New York City right now with the mandates and the vaccinations, and 72% of the black community is vaccine hesitant, and the ones who now can't go into restaurants are the black community? Because
for some reason, black people don't trust the government.
I'm
just saying. You're not going to offend anybody. Just say it.
In this political environment,
yeah,
it seems kind of really effed up.
Well, in Georgia, it was racist to require ID to vote, and now you have to take an injection to go to a restaurant.
Wait,
it's not about that.
But in Georgia, they also closed a lot of the places you can get an ID in the black community. So now you had to travel somewhere else to get an ID card. If they would have opened more places and said, hey, it's more accessible for you to get an ID.
Can't you just like get one online?
No, you have to be able to go in, and if you Google it, like how far away these places are now.
Yeah.
I mean, people have to go 40 miles to go to a DMV. We have, we can go right down the street to it and stuff. So
they're not going.
So they're not going, and people don't have cars.
But don't you legally, if you're 18, have to have a photo ID?
You don't.
You don't have to have any kind of photo ID.
Legally, no.
You have to be able to identify yourself.
No.
You don't.
If you need a job or something that requires an ID card, but legally, like there's nothing that says like you have to have a state issue.
But to like get a job, get a car, function in society, have a bank account, anything, you have to have an ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these people then aren't getting a bank account at PNC.
But not everybody does.
They're getting a Venmo card. They're using, you know what I mean? Like
I worked at a place in Scranton.
Yeah.
A lot of minorities. Older population.
Yeah, but they can't.
And they didn't
why are y'all trying to avoid my question that I asked?
But if you're a minority who can't get an ID, you're not allowed to vote anyways.
No, it's not because they can't. Like, some of them don't have it. They just don't.
Then how do they get a job?
If you also think about people's birth certificates, I mean, so it's
Obama's Kenyan one. No,
trying to get, for people whose family doesn't necessarily have a safe in their house where, you store all your documents and different things. Like there's people who literally have you ask them, they have no idea where their birth certificate is. Their mother has it somewhere, or twice removed stepdad from some, and so there's barriers in a way that affect one group more than another, and that's so when people are talking about something,
I think that's across the board for everything.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll say something that might be. Before you do, I want to say something stupid controversial.
Dude, I wanted to end on that thing.
I know, and we're going to get right back to yours.
But now it's longer.
If you can't get a job, this is black, white, Latino, I don't care.
And you have a black eye.
And
and a fat
if you lose things like birth certificates, it
should be more difficult for you to vote. Yes,
it should be much more difficult for you to vote.
Yeah, if you can't.
I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, if you're not a contributing member of society, have a job. But he's
saying that people have jobs and people are contributing members of society. They just are
but
able to do it.
But if you're an American
without
citizen.
They're saying things
who is functioning in normal society. What is there something that I'm missing?
Because you're coming from a place of privilege, and I am too. Like I'm coming from a place. I have a safe in my house that has her stuff in it, my stuff. Like
my birth certificate's not in a safe.
Oh, whatever. But
you still have. But you're coming from a place. You're coming from a place of privilege. Like I'll just end it with this, right? And then Mark, you could ask your question. Here's the thing. Like, I'm not a big food person, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a big food person. So
I can tell by your weight.
So
shocker.
So like when I go to restaurants, and I have to wait. I don't. I just leave, right? If there's wait, the wait is more than 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. It's not something. So it's the same thing. Like, especially like with blacks, there's certain things that is not important to them. Kind of like with me, like food, going to sit in a restaurant is not that important to me. So I'm not going to sit there and wait. And if you make it even more difficult, which in my case, like I have to wait 20, 30 minutes before I get a table, I'm out. It's the same thing. Wait, so now Like to me, oh yeah, getting an ID, I can still function without an ID. Now you want me to go 60, 70 miles to go get an ID?
Who can function without? I had to show my ID 3 times today.
My babysitter, she just actually, my brother came into town to get a new driver's license. Yeah. Both of us kept PA as because we lived here, home of record.
Right.
So whenever our license would expire, we'd always come home to get a new license. So he came in to do that. We were in the DMV in Dunmore, and I see my babysitter, and she's there getting an ID card, not her license, but just an ID card because she hadn't had one.
Yeah.
And so she has a job. She has actually 2 jobs, and then 3 if you count her babysitting for me. But she's functioning. She has an apartment,
but as
and
an
everything.
employer,
but she's working
I think you just
without
need the Social Security card
without an ID card.
No.
Yeah.
It's like federal law. You have to have 2 forms of ID to hire somebody in this country. It's like federal law from the Department of Labor.
There are certain jobs that don't ask.
I know, but they're breaking the law.
I've actually, I would say this though, in the military, when I was an instructor and I was helping students do different things, I had multiple students who did not have a license.
Yeah.
So then they did not have a photo ID. So I had to help them get a photo ID from the DMV.
Right.
And then get a driver's license. So
At
it
what
was
age?
something that they were in the military, so 18 over. 18 to 24, I would say. So I have seen people who literally, and at first my question was like, how did you get
But okay, and again, I don't want to be crazy, but voting is a right and a privilege. And if you want to vote, you should just go get an ID.
Yeah, so make it easy for people to get it.
Yeah, I agree. Should make it super easy for people to get an ID.
Yeah, exactly. So in places
thing.
like Georgia, don't close DMVs and voter
Is it the whole
registration
state?
Like they closed so many, and most of the ones that they closed were in black areas.
Well, I guess.
And then they said everybody needs an ID, but they did a survey that said, how do people vote by race? Which was controversial. They got the results and showed that black people overwhelmingly.
The understanding of the poll was that people vote by race?
Yes.
Okay.
Which ways do they vote?
Okay.
So black people overwhelmingly voted early and by mail. And, other races.
And then on Sundays.
Yeah, right.
Because after church.
Exactly.
After church.
Exactly. So
Sister Catherine is just going to take you in the van.
He's being dead ass though, like dead ass. And then know what they did? They literally canceled those ways to vote after doing the survey, and it ended up being a big controversial thing. But it's if you want everybody to have an ID card, then you need to make it more accessible to everybody. And when something's 60 miles away, if I have a car, I have a license, so me driving somewhere to go do this is going to be annoying, but I'm going to do it. Somebody who's using public transportation to get back and forth between their house and their work maybe isn't going to be able to take a day off to go now get the bus out there. What if the bus doesn't go out there? Or because they closed the ID place that's closest to where they are.
And if it doesn't matter to them, they're not going.
And if they're
It doesn't matter to them, they're not going. They're not going to make
it doesn't
the
matter to
effort.
them.
Yeah, and they're not going to make the effort. And that's the thing. So it's in a way, it's like catch-22. You're trying to encourage people to do it, yet in a way, you still kind of don't want them to do it, and you're making it difficult.
Right.
I just don't know if that's necessarily racism. I think it's politics.
It's totally politics. To me, I see that more as politics, not as racism. It's just that.
But once you look at the data, and it affects one group,
minority more,
and that's what it is. It's I don't know if the purpose was racism, but
it's kind of like that.
But at the end of the day, when you see that, wow, this overwhelmingly affects one group of people, that's
like
why people are gonna.
It's kind of like the 13th Amendment. It's kind of like the 13th Amendment, right?
You mean the one that made slavery still legal?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I guess in a way, maybe that wasn't it. But if you look at the grand scheme of things,
you're this overwhelmingly is affecting one group of people.
It was the same thing. It was the same thing with the war on drugs that started from Nixon all the way down, right?
Agreed.
So
and the stuff he said about it was
the same thing, right? So you look at the grand scheme of things, it affects largely a certain group. So then you start questioning,
right?
Start asking those crazy.
And the irony of it all is I agree with what you guys are saying, and yet that's what Joe Biden, who wrote the crime bill 20 years ago, used as his big platform. And it's you just voted for the guy that does all the things you say you hate.
I was never in favor of him. Bill Clinton, there was a lot.
I don't mean to lump you in.
Bill Clinton was one of the ones as well, because I think he actually even made the war on drugs.
He did.
He amplified it.
He amplified it because he was a Democrat and he didn't want to seem soft on crime. Yeah. So he took the stance that I'm going to overdo it.
Yeah. Because he overcompensated.
Overcompensated because he didn't want to seem like a weak Democrat.
He overcompensated on that blue dress too. Okay, so to go back to Marky's question, okay, we just had a nice conversation about this, and it's like, okay, I'm actually learning a little bit. This is good. How in the world is in New York, like you said, this mandate, this vaccine mandate, knowing that overwhelmingly that black people, minorities are against the vaccine because they have a natural and warranted distrust of the federal government? How in the world is this not the most insanely racist thing that's ever happened in New York City in a while?
Right.
They're also getting fired from their jobs.
They are getting fired from their jobs.
This is segregation 2.0 on steroids.
Because regardless, the outcome is still the same.
Right.
The outcome is still the same.
And the thing is, I don't have the answer, and I don't know.
The two most populous cities in this country, New York and Los Angeles, and we all know about LA homelessness.
They're turning black people into second-class citizens.
Correct. Even if it's not if it's not the reason why you're doing it, the cause of it is, look, I want to change the stream, but it ended up putting all the fish in my neighbor's yard. Right.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I got to change the stream.
What happens at the end? Right.
Where
it doesn't matter.
You
might not have started off with this goal.
They need to stop this.
And I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
I do.
I mean, it's for me. I look at it two ways, and this is not going to help anybody, because in the military we got tons of vaccines. They just shot us with stuff. I have no idea what it was.
How many people died from the vaccines?
You probably wouldn't know. I mean, that wouldn't be something that would be
public.
Or even
they own you,
or I would say it wouldn't even be something that would kind of like register.
We know how many people have died in the general population for vaccines over the past 5 decades. It's about 100 a year.
So on one hand, I look at it like I was in the military. I got injected with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Arsenic or anthrax?
Yeah, the anthrax vaccine. I mean, I have my smallpox scar. There's so much stuff. I love McDonald's. So I will die in the hell. I don't know what's in none of that stuff, and I eat it, and I also love Taco Bell. But so on one hand, I kind of feel like
chalupas are the best,
dude. We all do stuff and get.
I'm not talking about the vaccines.
No. I know, but and then on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, I understand when the thought behind it, like trying to be the good of the population and saying like, okay, everybody needs to do this. But once you get to a point where you're mandating something, I am curious, and I'm kind of just like, why? And then it just, now I feel like if you flip the script, we're doing the same thing that we're saying that the other side is doing. We're discriminating against people. I was talking to my best friend, and she has family coming in, and she was saying like her family was saying, well, you're abusing your child because you don't want your child to get the vaccine.
Dude, that kid has a statistical 0 chance of dying from COVID. And
I'm literally just like, that's ridiculous to say. And on one hand, yes, I eat McDonald's and I got every vaccine they told me to get in the military.
I eat McDonald's too, babe.
But on the other hand, when I was pregnant, I didn't get any vaccines at all. Because I found out that they can't legally do tests on pregnant women. So if you want to get a vaccine or something, you have to volunteer for it, and then they'll kind of like check your results like that.
Dude, if you're pregnant, Red Lobster tells you not to eat there.
But so it's like they say, well, these aren't really tested on pregnant women, but you need this.
Never tested.
And I literally was like, no, I'm not gonna I didn't get anything. The only thing I got for my daughter when I was pregnant was I had gestational diabetes and preeclampsia to eclampsia. She was born early, so I had to get steroids injected into me so that her lungs would develop.
Wow.
And that was even, I mean, I
probably took, for you at the time.
I took a couple days to kind of think about it because I was nervous and freaked out. And
she's
I knew
beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And I knew in my head that like they don't normally test these things on pregnant women because that's a big risk. And so for me to just decide that I'm going to take this, like I'm not even just considering me, I have to consider her too.
Sure.
I ended up doing it to where she got the steroids because she ended up being born early. But I can so for that side of me, I understand people's hesitation and stuff like that. I really do get it. And then I've done research to where, and I've talked to actually one of the women who helped create the Moderna vaccine. And I know that it stemmed from the SARS vaccine that they were originally creating. So this isn't something that all of a sudden happened. It was a piece that they had started working on from something else and realized, hey, this piece we've already been doing for 10 years can fit into like this coronavirus vaccine that we need to have. So I do understand that. I think
Moderna is an mRNA too, right?
Yeah.
Johnson & Johnson is the dead cell virus.
Yeah.
And
so
Pfizer
I think that
is
people
mRNA,
don't
right?
understand that piece to where it's like, this isn't all of a sudden new. This is something that's been worked on, but they take a piece of it like almost like a core. And then
I know how it works.
But I think that people, because I hear people say all the time, this is brand new. They just made it in 6 months. And it's like, no,
actually they made it in 2 hours.
And I'm like, no, they didn't make this whole thing in 6 months or 2 hours. But it's
because they know the process.
They know the process. And once you already know the process, then it's easier to replicate that and do it again and do all the experiments for it. Yeah. So, I was in the military. I was in the military though, and I'm telling you, we are the kings and queens of government conspiracies because we've seen it from the inside to where you don't trust anybody. You think you're a lab rat sometimes, you feel like, and they're just using you. So anytime that something is like...
But okay, so let me ask that, though. How did... Because I always have considered myself a liberal. Mm-hmm. And lately I'm like, I'm going to be more of a libertarian. How did the liberal, progressive, call it Democrat Party, the protesting the war in Vietnam, the fighting for women's rights, fighting for gay rights, fighting against the government and all the things that they were doing to hold people back, how did they all of a sudden become the altar boys for the cult of government? What happened?
Right.
Why is it like, what happened?
Well, that's another podcast.
I'm so confused.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot of it.
And the thing is, I don't know, like for me, I got the vaccine, right? I have it.
Which one did you get?
I got Moderna.
Okay.
I was in A1, so I have what's called Little syndrome. So I have really high blood pressure, super low potassium, and super low vitamin D. Like it's super rare.
A1 is like
early group
comorbidity.
Yes,
okay.
Like that. I was with the old people. Like that first group, because my doctor said,
Carl.
when I was at the VA, when I tell you I never got looks until the day I was going to get that vaccine because it was literally all like old white dudes. And they're looking at me like,
what's this young black?
Why the fuck is she?
Why is this 23-year-old black girl doing here?
Am I at a Klan meeting?
And they're all staring at me. And I literally was like, and my brother's active duty too. So I was like FaceTiming and I was like, dude, everybody's staring at me.
Yeah.
And my doctor said, he was like, if you get this, it could be really bad for you.
Yeah.
My daughter ended up with corona.
How'd she do?
She was fine. I tested negative and died. Like
you tested negative and were still sick?
I was so sick.
Was that after the vaccine or?
This was after the vaccine, like months after the vaccine. So
maybe it wasn't corona. Maybe you had
maybe I just had the flu.
Like
or
the
whatever.
rhinovirus is going around.
Yeah, we
real
seem
bad.
to have forgotten that those things existed.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the whole year of when everybody was in mask because I didn't get a cold. And it was, as somebody who has asthma, it was wonderful.
All right. So.
But back to your question, I don't know. I don't have the right answer. I don't know what. I think
that's feel icky?
It feels icky because now we're treating people bad. And we've been talking about how we don't want to treat people bad. And this other side is treating people bad. And we want to be the side of inclusion.
Yeah, we don't like segregation, everybody, right? But we're going to segregate you.
And then at the same time, it's like we have people who have worked through the whole pandemic.
And now they're being fired.
And now it's like, because you don't want to get this, you're going to be fired. Do I think some of the people genuinely are believing bad information? Yes, I do believe that. But
what do you think?
But I don't know what the...
After all this time, what could they possibly think will sway their opinion? They have dug their heels in.
Nothing. I don't think. I think people are really to the point where it's like, if you're going to fire me for this, then fire me for this.
Yeah, my friends...
I know people that feel that way.
My friend's mom lost her job.
Can you imagine?
No, she resigned because they were going to fire her. She's a nurse in New York. And they're going to fire her. They were going to fire her anyway, so she resigned.
You know what the other thing...
It just breaks my heart. This is someone that worked...
A hero.
Throughout the pandemic, right?
And because now they won't heal and do what they're told.
And it's like,
it's scary to me that to me that you're going to fire professionals and have the military run it. Right?
I mean,
that's what they're doing.
They let 19-year-olds drive boats.
That's not a boat, dude. That is not a boat.
Aircraft carrier.
Ship.
But military healthcare is amazing. Though.
Well,
you can see
my God, that TRICARE?
Their doctors and stuff.
But they're bringing in the National Guard, and I don't.
Oh no! The National Guard that's a whole different beast. And I'll tell you, our weekend warriors, I love them. I'm here for you.
I'm sure they're phenomenal.
But when you're not doing something all the time,
right?
That's what I mean.
That's what. And
I don't want the surgeon to do surgery on me when he does it once every 5 years.
Yes.
Exactly. And so military doctors literally will train in places like Detroit or Chicago to get expertise in like gunshot wounds. When they go overseas and in war, but the everyday regular smuggler, and like what I was saying when I first started, all the jobs aren't combat jobs or this or that. Right. So, you just have regular people who are working a regular 9 to 5 on the weekends. They're doing their military training. They're doing whatever. And now you're having these people take place of professionals who, and I'm not saying that they're not
in the shit for 18 months.
And I'm not saying that these people aren't professionals, but you've been in the shit for 18 months.
Yeah.
You've been doing it. Yeah. You've been working the whole time. And I don't know.
It doesn't square right with me.
I think it's crazy. And we have to, because there are so many people who distrust the government. There's so many minorities who have said Tuskegee, that went on for so long.
Yeah.
You have
there was others.
You have Father of Gynecology who was doing experimental surgeries on slaves and black women, and then decided to, when he moved to New York, I'm going to use anesthesia because I'm doing it on white women. Like, you have this medical distrust as well.
Well, the Nazi scientists didn't just die in Germany. They came over here and kept going.
They did. And that's the thing.
And they had children.
And then they had children who also became doctors.
Well, if you look at our fashion industry too, because Tom Ford made...
Don't you dare besmirch Tom Ford. Right, don't you dare.
Who made those uniforms, Bo?
What uniform? Tom Ford didn't make Nazi uniforms. Tom Ford's like 50 years old.
No. It was a different person. You're
Hugo
absolutely
Boss.
Right. No, it's
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss.
Don't you dare besmirch my friend Tom Ford.
It was more than Hugo Boss too, though.
Or Tommy Hilfiger.
No.
That wasn't true.
No, Tommy Hilfiger's he was born in like the 1950s. It was Hugo Boss. He made the SS uniforms.
And there was another one. Yeah, he did.
He made the SS uniforms.
Cologne.
Yeah, that's why I only wear Tom Ford.
So what? Now I can't wear Hugo Boss or listen to fucking Michael Jackson.
Culture.
First of all, you never should in the beginning.
So okay,
at the end of the day, here's what it boils down to: how bad of a pandemic are we in if they're firing all the nurses and doctors? It can't be that bad.
But I feel like I feel like it still is that bad, and they're still doing. And that is my issue. Is I feel like it actually is bad.
We have a nursing shortage. And apparently our ICUs are overloaded. That's what we're hearing, and they're firing everybody. Yeah.
And I feel like two things can be true at the same time.
Do you know how a hospital gets full? They close down the other floors.
Right. And you have 20 beds normally. You only have 10 beds now open. So 10 beds taken, it's full. I don't know, but that's crazy to me. And we do have a shortage, and we do have I think that people really are dying. I mean,
I think that's true. I think a lot of the reasons why people think so.
My family here has been okay, but I've had extended family to where COVID ran through it, to where we had 8 people in our family die from COVID. And Detroit and different things. So it's people really are dying. There was a firefighter here who died who was 25. There's different people who have died all over the city, whether they were old or young. So people really are dying, but I feel like there's also pockets where that's not happening.
Do you like campfires and scotch?
We should go find one.
I'm happily married to an immigrant. But if you like that,
He ordered her out of a Russian
I will
magazine.
tell you some stories. I kind of want to end on this real quick. Are you okay, honey? What? We're almost done.
Do you want to go home?
Wait, she's whispering. She's like, I want a fish fillet.
Do you want a fish fillet? Do you want a fish fillet or do you want a chalupa?
So I want to end.
See, there's nothing she doesn't like Taco Bell.
Oh,
Because I'm here for the chalupa.
we're done.
In history.
So I'll get a fish fillet when she gets a Happy Meal.
There's a lot of terrible things that they did under the guise of good intention in history.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. We all look at the past and never think that the past can actually live in the present. Okay? That's all I wanted to say. Aside from that, we've been here a while. You've been absolutely gracious with your time. I think your daughter is
She's wonderful.
I don't know what energy this room needed, but that's the energy.
That was it.
She doesn't need to say anything, but you just feel good with her around.
Yep.
She's sweet as hell.
I have hope for the future.
Your daughter absolutely gives me just her energy.
And you honestly like the hope for the future though too. I mean, she went to school the whole pandemic.
Good.
Like
Where did she go to school?
She goes to Discovery MI school over on East Mountain.
Oh yeah.
So they had the kids had to wear masks, but they weren't punished or anything if they're little. If they didn't wear it, they taught them like, hey, if your mommy goes to the store, you might, need to put your mask on. But they were in person the whole time. Their classes stayed with their classes, but they still had lunch and recess and all that stuff. And I'm happy that they were able to do that because in the real world, women, single mothers, what are we going to do? If when they close the schools and I was just
firing teachers
I was
too.
just talking to my boyfriend about this and I said the majority of the people who take the jobs of hostesses, waitresses, all these jobs that they're talking about, people aren't working, is majority women jobs. And when your school closes, her school closed this week due to COVID. I ended up taking vacation from my job. Because the first day,
City Hall is running rampant.
I was trying to do. There's nobody here. I was trying to do virtual school and work from home, and I literally was like, "Yo, I can't." I was like, "I throw in a towel. I can't do it. It's 1 o'clock."
Now imagine how many moms all over the country that are doing
but they
that.
do, and there's some of them said, "No, I can't do it," and they're not returning to work, and they're staying home. And I get that. The people I know right now that are out of work have kids, and that's why they're out of work, and so. Now it's like people are asking me, am I going to get her the vaccine? Because she's going to be 5. No. And I'm like, I don't know why it feels different to me. But me getting it, I was like, whatever. Like,
didn't you say she's already had it?
No, she's
had COVID.
She's had
it. She
it.
had COVID. Yeah.
Congratulations, sweetie.
Right.
You have 27 times more immunity than the vaccine.
Yeah.
She doesn't need it.
But now when people are asking me about it, I'm like,
don't listen to them. They don't live your life. It's none of their goddamn business.
And can we be real honest about something? What was the COVID vaccine designed to treat? COVID. When it came around in November, December, January of 2019, 2020. Well, you know where we are now? It's the Delta variant. This vaccine doesn't even hit the Delta variant. At this point, you're just shooting sugar water into your arm.
By the way, I love Skittles. I want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You're a beautiful, gracious person. Aja, I'm sorry I cut you off like twice. No. I'm happy Alex is gone.
Troglodyte mouth
I would just
breather.
like to say, though, that the Grief
campaign.
Festival, the food was so
It was
good.
ridiculously good.
It's damn good.
Yeah.
Ridiculously good.
But his entire culture has no humility. They just can't shut up. Like, our food or this or that. It's like, we get it. You're good. You're good. You're good. Hey, would you come back and talk with us someday?
100%.
You had a good time?
Yeah, I did.
We're not crazy
Awesome.
people?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll save that for the next time.
And do you want to say it?
What a week.